Good night, everybody. This is Marcia Weeks, and you are watching the Marcia Weeks Show. It is Friday night, a wonderful, wonderful Friday night. We are excited to be here. Why is it muting all the time? It's muting, muting, muting. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Why did it go mute? Okay, good. We can hear now. So we're just making sure that we can hear everybody. You can hear me, and I'm seeing that you're typing away. Let me just welcome Tracy Barrow. Tracy Barrow, who's been on at 6:53 this evening. Tracy, how was your day? Hoping you had a lovely day. And there is Rameem saying blessings, loyal, patriotic opposition. Let's all dig deeply within and really crystallize the Barbados we want to create. God is a good God of order and covenant. Repent of the folly government is doing. Stand. Oh my Lord, it's a lot. That one is loaded. That's loaded, Rameem. I have to read that slowly again. She says, let's all dig deeply within and really crystallize. Think about it. The Barbados we want to create. That's a good one. What is the Barbados that we want to create? What is that Barbados we want to create? She says, God is a God of order and covenant. Repent of the folly the government is doing. Stand, stand, stand. Yes, yes, yes. Merlene, welcome. Good night, Merlene. Loyal daughter. Welcome, welcome. Jefferson Sobers, welcome. Sir Alfred Benjamin, welcome. Tonight is going to be an amazing night. We have with us Bishop ATHERLY. Will be joining us, Caswell and I, later on. And we're going to have Reverend Scantlebury, Apostle Scantlebury, let me call him by his correct title, will be on, and also Reverend John Carter will be on. So tonight, listen, Caswell is surrounded by all of these reverends tonight. You know he's a reverend too. Hi, Jeannie Motley. Good evening to you. Merlin Seeley. Good evening. Oh my goodness, guys, keep sharing. Tonight is going to be one powerful night. And what I want to say is that there is something happening in Barbados. Don't let anybody try to tell you that nothing is happening. There is something happening. People are coming together, things are happening. And we know things are happening because let me bring Mr. Franklin in here. It's so good to see him early. Good night, sir. How are you?
Good. Oh, good night. I'm wonderful.
You're
Slight things bother
wonderful.
me, but nothing will take me out. That is not none of these.
None of these, none of these. We're praying for you. We're praying for you. Keep the general in prayer. Keep the general in prayer. Let me know if you're hearing the general loud enough, or I need to put up my volume. Yeah, you're hearing. Everybody, let me know if you're hearing the general well. Okay,
Um,
wonderful.
you hear me good? Good.
Yes, I'm hearing
I'm
you
all
good. I just
good.
Good. I just want to make sure everybody. Oh, yes, they said we're hearing you loud. Everybody's hearing our audio is great. I was saying, Mr. Franklin, that something great is happening in Barbados. People are coming together. People are putting aside differences. People are working together. I can see it. All of today, I was working with people that I've never met, only on here, we're putting together ads to the child protection bill and the graphic artists, and all these people, we're all doing it virtually and working from morning, putting it all together. And then there's another team over here doing something else. And tomorrow morning something special is happening. Tomorrow morning, Mr. Franklin,
Yeah, we'll have our
something
Zoom meeting.
special is happening. Yes, we have our Zoom meeting, and that is it here on the screen. Yeah, it's on the screen, and it's our discussion that is going to happen tomorrow. This is bipartisan. No political party is putting it on. It's the people of Barbados, and we are going to be on Zoom tomorrow morning. No march tomorrow. Tomorrow is a strategic meeting tomorrow. A strategic meeting is going to happen tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. And we have various areas that you can, choose. When you get into the Zoom, you're going to see all the different rooms are already created for you. All right. And you will be able to see exactly which one that you want to join. So there'll be one on education reform, right? There'll be one on education reform. There is one. I'm hoping Mr. Caswell will be able to find somebody to head up the pensions one, pension, NIS and pension reform. Really want to look at that. And then we have the whole thing about the the freedom of conscience and religion and expression. That's a group by itself. There's economics as well. So we will have about 4 or 5 groups there that you would be able to decide which one you want to join, right? And you can decide on. No, we'll be dealing with other topics as we go along, but this is what we're starting out with, because only about 30 something persons have sent their numbers to join this group. So we need you. If you're going to come tomorrow, then if we have a big number, then we can always expand the group, right? We're looking at water as well. We're going to look at water as well, Mr. Franklin. What are your thoughts about tomorrow, Mr. Franklin? Tomorrow morning. You're muted.
Now, tomorrow it's new and it's innovative, and I hope the people would come out. And no, there's no excuse, because they're going to be in the comfort of their homes participating in these meetings. So they can't say it's too far. They can't say the sun is too hot. Never. So we expect to see a lot of you there, just coming out in your own interest. That's what this is all about. It is in your interest to come out and let the government know. I'll tell you, they will log in too. They will log in. If they don't log in in their own names, they will log in in somebody else's. I am confident about that. So if you come out, you will be speaking to them directly as well.
Yeah. Somebody's saying here, Tracy Barrow says, I feel the winds of change. It's been a long time coming, and I know the change gonna come. And I feel that too, Tracy. I am very hopeful. And Tracy, that change belongs, you know that song,
Yeah,
Caswell.
yes.
You sound like you're about to sing it. you know Listen, I can feel that is happening. I can feel it happening. And what we have to do is to make sure we don't give up. We don't give up, and don't feel like every time when you come on, you're like, oh, we're wasting time. No, we're building an army. I was just telling those that are working on the website how a great job that they're doing, because we never had a website before, and it came out of the show. People are volunteering their time, volunteering their efforts, working hard round the clock to make sure that we have all the information. I called the people responsible for the site to say, can you put on the meeting for tomorrow? They're like, oh, it's on already. Mr. Franklin. And that's
Mm.
beautiful. It means that something is happening, right? Something is happening. Yeah. So look, guys, it is look at what is happening tomorrow. If you want to get the link, you can go to themarciaweekshow.com, themarciaweekshow.com, to get the Zoom link for tomorrow, where we're going to have that meeting. And we're hoping to happen out of it. But Mr. Franklin, what are some of the deliverables that you would like to see coming out of this meeting tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I am not one of those people who want to get everything done. No, I want participation. I want people to speak up. If I can get that, I am happy. And I want people to participate. I want people to speak. Then we can work on getting the government to roll back a lot of these things that we are asking for. I want the government to abandon plans for the Jolly Water. I want them to reverse the national insurance and the pension arrangements. There are whole lots of things that I want. But right now, I want the people to say to the government, this is our agenda. This is what we want. Because nobody is telling them, and they're doing what they want, doing what they feel like in their own interest and the interest of their friends. And it has to stop. So this can be the beginning of that process. They will listen.
Yes.
If enough of us speak up, they will listen. And don't let them think it's just a fringe group, because that's what they classified us as already. Let them see that we are not a fringe group and that we mean business. If I can get those out of this thing, I will be happy.
Yes. And if I believe that the people who are going to come tomorrow are people that mean business. And one of the things that we're saying to them is that we do not want the Zoom session to be another show. We want it to be a work session. That's why we're putting people into smaller groups so that we can actually work. And we are still looking for leaders for water. Anybody who can head up water, that would be great. KEMAR is not available tomorrow morning, but anybody who can head up water, that area, message me now at 236-7000. Right? What? Yes.
Well,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, tell them don't be bashful. If Santia is heading up water and she's making a mess of it, you can't do a worse job. So come on out and support yourself. Look, if by now, and they haven't realized the water, we're telling people that Barbados is water scarce. You see how much scarce water is pouring down in St. Lucie the other day, and all over the place you got water, and nobody will, and it's running into the sea. We need people with innovation, not just going overseas, seeing what other people are doing, and coming back. He says, good evening, everyone, and snow.
Snow upset as well. Yeah. So when at the meeting, I would say, guys, come prepared to work. Have a notebook. I always have my notebook. I told you, I literally, when I started out the show, my book had so many pages. Look, I have 2 pages left because this is now the cover, right? I have 2 pages left in the book. And so have a book, or have the notes section on your phone or something to take notes and really come to work, and not just to there'll be a time when a section of it you're going to talk about what are the issues. Write them down from tonight, work it out from tonight, and come up with some solutions from tonight. Let that be your homework, so when you come together, right, then you have something to offer, right? And we work together. So we need a leader for water. So if that's you, message me 236-7000. And you don't have to be in Barbados to lead a group. You can be overseas. You can be in the diaspora. I used to be in the diaspora, and I know that you still care about your country. So you could be in the diaspora and lead a group. We need somebody to lead the group on really just freedom and freedom of conscience and freedom of expression, and the whole LGBTQ agenda. We need somebody to take on that on its own, right? Yeah. So come tomorrow. That is what we're going to do. For those of you who are just joining, we have a great show lined up for you. Bishop Atherley is going to be here. Caswell knows him very, very well, and he's going to be here on the program tonight. And Apostle LYNROY Scantlebury is going to be on, and we have Pastor John Carter is going to be on. So let me tell you, this is one power packed program tonight. So I'm asking you guys to share. Yes, Glenn, we're going to talk about the homes, the people who lost their homes by fire. But before I get to that, let me just talk about KEMAR. Now, a birthday is coming up, Mr. Franklin. Somebody is having a birthday. Somebody is having a birthday, and it is coming up. And okay, I'm trying to make sure that we can see the flyer here. Look at this flyer, Mr. Franklin. You seeing this flyer? Yes, the flyer. You're muted. The flyer says KEMAR Stewart presents 007, your mission, dress to impress. Alternate views, and he named it the name of the book. I have the book here. I was looking at this book again today. Alternate views, and it's Saturday, December 9th. Tickets $75. It includes food. That's a good price, with food included plus the entertainment. All right. This is the December birth month party. Anybody out there born December? We're gonna go down and celebrate. I'm October born, and I know Caswell is October born as well. But we're gonna go down and celebrate with KEMAR, right? Live in concert, you have Chris Irie, and accompanied by live band. Oh my God, for $75, and guest appearance by Stiffy Star Quality. And it's going to be at the George Street Auditorium at Belleville, St. Michael. Live DJ entertainment from 11 p.m. And it's sponsored by Stewart and Perkins Caribbean and Boy Services, right? And all of KEMAR's handle is there, Instagram handle at KEMAR Stewart. And or you can get tickets also and information at Boy Services, or there's a number 846-9912 that you can call. And we want to support and celebrate KEMAR, right? We want to support and celebrate. We all know he'll be 28. You can't hide and say what his age is going to be, because we know the age already. So he's going to be 28 years old, and we want to and we want to. Oh, Trevor says he's reading the book. Yeah, the book is here. Don't forget, you can get the book as well on my website, themarciaweekshow.com. You can go to get the book as well, KEMAR's book. And we want to celebrate. Nothing is wrong with celebrating each other. It is what we are supposed to do. It is the celebrating that we need to make sure we do more of that, and honor each other and love each other. And we appreciate KEMAR. And that's going to be a great event there. But Mr. Franklin, I don't know if you heard about the fire. You heard about the fire?
Yes, I saw some video that some people sent to me on WhatsApp. They said 4 houses. At the time when they was hearing it, there were only 2, so the 2 more went down. By the time after I heard, because when they was hearing, the fire was still ongoing, But that is when I hope we cannot now say that we don't need a fire service in the city. They took it out of the city because they wanted to clear the front garden for the Hyatt. They don't want a fire station in front of this international hotel, so they moved it. And since then, we've had persons dying within a stone's throw away from where that fire station used to be, dying in fires. They didn't leave a fire truck because those places were so close. They just need a hose, and they're gone. So I just let the government realize that their short-sightedness isn't becoming, and you know what really bothers me? They realized they made a mistake after a few people died. So people had to die in order for them to realize that they make a mistake. Then they decided that they're going to put one in the report and come out in the newspaper with a straight face saying, oh, the Port Authority built a fire station and it will service our parts. He said, no, the Port Authority have built a fire station. They told the Port Authority to build one because it looked bad. It looked really bad. You don't want a fire station down inside the port authority. There was no need for it. There's one now because at least now it will be able to cover areas in the city, and they're not honest enough to say we made a mistake and we had to put something back in the city. And the best place we could do it so far, because we didn't have any space to put it, is down in the port. That would have been the honest thing to do. But I find that when you're dealing with Abrams, the honest thing to do is never the thing that he would do. You know, I have great reservations about these people because, you know, I don't expect any politician to be perfect. But these people decide that they're going to be perfect liars every time. You know, just come and say, look, we made a mistake, we're sorry. Nobody's going to kill you. I certainly wouldn't. I will have more respect for you rather than you come out there. Even here now, did you know that we had a budget recently? The Prime Minister got up in the House of Assembly, she called it ministerial statement. When you make a statement imposing taxes, raising taxes, it's called a budgetary proposal. That's what the definition of the definition of the provisional collection of taxes says it is. She actually had a budget without telling people that it was their budget. We got to stop this nonsense. Because they're, you know, what is so wrong with her saying, oh, well, we had to go and do, but no, she announced budgetary proposals. I mean, announced when the Minister of Finance stands in the House and announced revenue raising measures. That is called a budgetary proposal. We had a budget recently when she went and raised taxes, you know.
Yeah, but you know.
So no, but why the deception? Why the dishonesty? Why the not calling a spade a spade? Because it is your budget. She don't want nobody to believe that. What is so wrong? Because there's no law that says a budget has to be at the beginning of the financial year or at the end of the financial year, anything like that. Anytime you make a proposal, it is in the Provisional Collection of Taxes Act, and that is what it's called. I can probably pull it up and show you if these people don't know.
Yeah.
But they're always so deceptive
in what is happening. But you know, Mr. You said deceptive. I also say very selfish in what they do, because look now, back to these people with the fire. You know, as soon as I saw it, I said, wow, no fire station in town. And look at what this gentleman, I don't know, Blind Griffith is saying.
Yes, he's saying
I'm
that
just reading
the
what
hydrant
is
didn't have
on
any
here.
water.
The hydrants did not have any water in them. They were waterless. I don't know if this is true. I am just reading. Let's just be clear on that. What Glenn Griffith is alleging. He's alleging that the hydrants were waterless in Westbury Road.
No,
But
but Marcia, he might be correct, because that was something that came to my attention when I saw the houses burning and the firemen were walking around the place. I said, "Why these people are out in the fires?" So that came to my mind. So no. But I didn't think.
and who is that under? Whose ministry is this under? Is this Home Affairs?
The fire service is Home Affairs. Santia Bradshaw deals with water.
They're just doing a mess, committing a mess of this country. And I believe at the end we can talk a bit more about this. But this is okay. So I'm hearing that this is what the fire service officers said on the scene. They even had to use extra hoses. So you know, when are we going to, Glenn Griffith and the others of us in the opposition? We must hold the government accountable for this. They are managing. We can't go and put water in the hydrants. It is them, and they are responsible. This evening, I am saying it on here. They are responsible for those 4 families losing their homes. First, this government is responsible. They removed the fire the fire service from town. Look how densely populated town is. Why would you do that? For selfishness. for
No, was it?
selfishness, because you want to put up this big structure that you said you weren't going to put up, but you possibly got something under the table and felt that you have to do it, all of you. And now people are displaced, and the hydrant was empty. This is total bad management of this country.
You know, when you have the hydrants there, the hydrants are just a place for the water, the people to get water, you know, and that means the hoses in the area won't get any water either, so they can even plug the holes and things, because once the hydrants don't have water, there's no water in the area. So what is the problem that you don't have water, but the port will have water for the cruise ships? So the port is just down the road
Yeah,
from there, you know. The port is just down the road from there. So I wonder what was happening. And then if the hydrants didn't have water, at least you could have a few trucks coming down,
yeah,
because the truck would come, connect up to the hydrant, and use the Barbados Water Authority supply to replenish the truck while they're out in the fires. But you can at least, even if you didn't have water at those hydrants, you can go elsewhere if you had enough trucks.
yeah.
But again, I understand that the roads were blocked and the fire service cannot get easy access. But even if they had easy access, they had no water. So
No water. How are you going to fight fire without any water? If somebody's asking who is responsible for maintaining the water hydrants, well, as far
no,
as
no,
we
no,
are,
nobody's responsible for maintaining the hydrants. They're just it's like a standpipe, you know. It is just the water. The water comes through the mains, and then you have an outlet there where the fire service can actually attach it to. So there's no real maintenance necessary. It comes from the normal water supply, one that you and I drink, and all that happens is that they just put that hydrant there so you can the fire service can access the water. You can't access what isn't there.
yeah. But I'm saying that it to me it's a management, the general management of the country, you know, that would cause something like that to happen. There's a mismanagement that is happening, a lack of care. They're not paying attention to details and so on. You know, I think that all of that is necessary, because can you imagine if it's a general thing where the hydrants are empty, then whenever there's a fire, we're going to lose a lot of people, right? If there's no water in the hydrants, I don't understand that, right?
I can understand
Wow.
it, but people don't want to understand it. You know, it's so hard for people to acknowledge that Barbados has slid from our position of good governance and good management, because we had those, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
people do not want to accept it. In every sphere of activity, where you're going, hospitals, transport boards, the roads, water authority, you could call a ministry that doesn't have problems, that doesn't have poor management.
Yeah.
The
Poor
the
management.
courts, the courts, you know, and they think that they can make the French judges and put them in the courts, and that will solve the problem, because the place still backlog. Nothing already
Mm-hmm.
happening. It is. They don't understand what they're doing, so they're doing something, and I'm finding out that what they did was the wrong thing. But they're doing that too often, and those
Yeah.
mistakes are costly. You know, they will go and take over the national insurance fund as they promised, or as they have legislated, and when they bankrupt
Mm-hmm.
it, because one of the things I wanted to mention tonight was that the national insurance people, the people who actually do the work, who actually look out for the people who process the claims, the clerical people, they give them a little pittance more, but they're bringing some people and paying them $20,000 and that kind of stuff. Those eight people at the top, you remember I told you that we're bringing eight new chiefs?
Mm-hmm.
Those people getting
Yeah.
a whole big set of money. And I have a problem with that, because I want to know why the Ministry of Civil Service would approve those.
Yes.
because there is government policy that for statutory boards that do not make money, that they are bound to follow the directives from the Ministry of Civil Service in terms of salary and conditions of service and that kind of thing. So national insurance does not make money. People see national insurance money coming in, money going out, and they got billions of dollars. They do not make a cent. National insurance takes your money and sit and put it on there for you till you can and pay out some when they're ready to do it. They don't make money. So as a result, and I don't think they understand that. As a result, they have to take directions from the Ministry of the Public Service. And the Ministry of Public Service is supposed to approve salaries. And I doubt very much that the people in the Ministry of Public Service would approve salaries for public officers or people who work for public service who do not make money. Now, if you were generating income, then and people pay you based on the money that you bring in, so be it. But you do not generate income at national insurance. It's not income. National insurance does not make money. National insurance pays out money from money that it has in trust. So somebody see because national insurance got money, and what they will do, they will bankrupt national insurance with these high salaries because those salaries you don't pay it one off, you pay every month. And national insurance now pay their own, reimburse the government for the salaries that the government pays. Because national insurance had a national insurance department, government pays government departments. But somehow they work out a system where national insurance will reimburse government for all the money that national insurance pays. No, but this is not money that national insurance is making. So it has always been a flawed concept where they think because national insurance has money that they can take it. It's not money that national insurance generated. This is a trust fund.
Wow. Mr. Franklin, I was hoping that because all of this we needed to dig into tomorrow. So we will talk. We will talk.
Yeah.
If you can send the information along so somebody else can get into that tomorrow. But this is so important. Well, we have we say on this program that this is it with every person who logs on, the people of Barbados, we say they make up the opposition, right? The opposition, it's the people of Barbados. We don't have anybody in parliament that makes up the opposition. But we remember when this government, when they first entered, that we had this a brave young man, decided that he was going to cross the floor and he was going to become the opposition in Barbados. And many did not understand what he was doing. A lot of people did not understand what he was doing, including myself. I didn't understand it. And when I understood it when this same young man stood in Parliament and was speaking when they were ready to change the Constitution, when they presented the first part of the Constitution, the Charter, was presented, and he stood up in Parliament to defend that. And it's when I fully understood, I believe, what his role was, and I watched him, and I literally cried. I love this country, and I saw what he was doing and his role. And he's no other than Bishop Joseph Atherley. And I'm honored, sir, to have you on the program tonight. Good night.
Good night, Bishop.
Hi, Cassie. I'm honored to be here, Marcia. Thank you for your compliments. And, I have to tell you, every day in Barbados, I meet people from all backgrounds and different ethnic backgrounds as well, social status backgrounds, and they express appreciation for what we tried to do between 2018 and 2022 as an opposition to Barbados. I want to salute. I'm glad Cassie is here. I was listening to the discussion between you and myself. Caswell, always very knowledgeable as usual, and brings legitimacy to the discussion of issues in Barbados. And he speaks from a position of knowledge. And I want to salute him for the role he played when we were in opposition between 2018 and 2022. I think Barbados is indebted to him for expanding the discourse, like I said, for bringing legitimacy to it. I want to applaud you, Marcia, for trying to put the spotlight also on some critical issues in Barbados. I have always sought to do what I believe the Lord wants me to do. Don't always get it right, but I have never been ultimately and principally about party. I would credit easily the Barbados Labour Party for the outstanding work that they have done in Barbados historically. I would equally credit the Democratic Labour Party for that. But for me, it has always been people above party, and that's not just a mantra. It must be the interest of Barbadians that takes on the priority for me in terms of my active role in politics. Those who know me, those who are close to me, will tell you that that's the kind of person I ask questions, I consult with people. When I'm minded to take a certain action, which I believe is in the interest of the country, I say, what do you think? What do you think? Here's what I see. Here's how I see it. And I try to follow where the Lord leads. And that I did. Marcia, so I thank you for your commendation. It has come obviously at a cost. And if I had to do it tomorrow, I will do it again. And some of those costs may be obvious to others, some of those costs not so obvious to others, and they bring pain. But if I had to do that tomorrow, I would do that tomorrow again. And I had to make a
Mhm.
choice of two opposition senators, I would choose Caswell Franklin and Crystal Drakes again as well, because I think they made a good team instead.
Yeah, well, Miss, I was thinking about this show, and as I was preparing for it, I said to myself, well, look at that. You crossed the floor, and then you installed Mr. Franklin and Crystal Drakes. But look at it now. The people are rising up and saying, we are the opposition. Look, so it has expanded. It's the people of Barbados that's coming together and saying we are the opposition, and understanding the importance for there to be true democracy, that we need opposition, and be constructive about it. And that's what you represented. And again, I want to thank you for that. Now, when you were in Parliament, just before the elections, there was a big debate in Parliament over that, um, the Constitution, the Charter, and you stood up and you were brilliant in those meetings. And I think we have some clips of them. I wish we could get some of them prepared um, for tonight. But I want to know what caused you you stood up. I mean, there were the 29 there, but you stood up and you were speaking so confidently and so
This document
boldly.
says we have to fit in with what the world is doing. This document says we have to fit in with what the world is doing. This document says we have to.
Yeah, let's hear it. Go ahead, please. You can go ahead and play it.
This document says we have to fit in with what the world is doing. This document says we have to fit in with what the world is doing. If we are going to be accepted by them, if we're going to get benefit from their financing, generosity, this government, this country, this document is saying has to fit in with what this. Listen, this is so loud with irony, Mr. Speaker. This is so loud with irony because it is coming at a time when we are taking that next step that enhances our sense of constitutional independence. We're moving to become a republic. But here in this throne speech, and I believe it is manifested in much of the dogma of this charter and in the preamble, we are saying we've got to fit in with the world and accept some of what the world proffers and offers and forces upon us, if we are to benefit from what they have to offer. I say 30 pieces of silver was not sufficient then, and 30 pieces of silver is not sufficient now.
Wow, powerful. 30 pieces of silver, not sufficient then and not sufficient now. Um, Bishop Atherley, what was going on in your mind? Why did you believe you had to stand up and speak up so loudly on that particular issue? The throne speech and what was in there.
Because if we're not careful, Marcia, we can lose what we have, what we value, and what has worked for us up until now. Barbados has a Christian heritage, and much of the moral values platforms that we have built, much of the social relationship platforms that we have built, draw from that morals value platform and that Christian heritage. I am always mindful of the fact, Marcia, that Barbados is an import oriented country. We
Mm-hmm.
are dispositioned to import, but it has not
Mm-hmm.
only to do with commodities. We walk down a bad path when we have to be dependent upon the world to such a high level of import disposition with respect to commodities. And it's reflecting itself right now in terms of how the cost of living is being driven. But we also got to be very careful, and this is an even greater threat when we import value sets, value systems, and value platforms from abroad. Because what we're
Mm-hmm.
doing is further corrupting a culture in Barbados, which is already imperiled. And then we want to
Mm-hmm.
institutionalize it. We want to give it legislative platform and premise. And then we want to
Mm-hmm.
move to the place where we indoctrinate generations behind us, generations to come into these culturally imported value sets. That is where we are in Barbados. I was very
Mm-hmm.
concerned about that at the time. 30
Mm-hmm.
pieces of silver, whatever they
Mm-hmm.
offer, is not sufficient for us to sell our souls to the world. I'm not going to say it to the devil. Perhaps that belongs in the church. But 30 pieces of silver cannot be a sufficient price for us to sell our heritage and our moral values position and the future of our generations behind us in terms of the cultural identity which they will develop for themselves, formulate for themselves, and then pass on to the generations behind them. That's where we
Mm-hmm.
are at in Barbados today. And it to me reached a high point when this document was brought to the Parliament of Barbados. The document was borrowing from the throne speech, which came from the lips of Her Excellency at the time. But the throne speech from the lips of Her Excellency is only a reflection of government intended policy. And here we were
Mm-hmm.
saying that we were willing to strip away some of the values protective gear that we have worn in this country for years and years and years and expose ourselves in nakedness to the world and buy into what they're selling. We're still at that point, and we got to be very careful because if we go
Yeah.
down there, we are going to lose this country. We're going to lose its soul.
Yeah. I'm listening to you, Bishop Athley, and I'm thinking about since you made that speech, all that has happened. We think about our children with the IDB test, and when I thought about that, I remembered you in Parliament, and you were warning us about this, this cultural identity and this thing that is coming in on us as a people. And we see all the different things that's happening in the society. Somebody wrote this in a chat that I was in, and they said Barbados is not self-governing. On many levels, our government is simply a tool in the hands of international power brokers. We are a puppet nation with strings attached to the UN, the EU, the IDB, IMF, and the WHO. And I believe that that is really what what you're saying. Do you see, as I made mention of the IDB test, but do you see any other signs of that in our society? Right? Do you see any other signs of that in our society as you're no longer in the opposition, you are watching, seeing what is going on? Do you see some of the things you are warning us about? Do you see them happening in the society?
But of course, when you sit at the world's table to feast on the husk that the world will offer, or to feast on the fear that the world would present before you. You have to be prepared to pay the price.
Mhm.
And I still see Barbados as pretty much a self-governing state. But we've got to be very careful because there's a very thin line between being institutionally regarded in terms of constitutional sovereignty as a self-governing state, because at the same time that line is so thin that you can easily lose the capacity to self-determine outcomes
Mhm.
for your country, to self-determine policy perspectives and policy positions, and these are enforced upon you. And you look across what is happening. People want you when you are in need of their financial support to
Mhm.
buy into some of their, not only their economic perspectives or economic regulatory positions, but also some of the social perspectives and socially regulatory impositions that they want to put upon you because they practice that themselves. As you look
Mhm.
across the developing world, you will find that we find ourselves in a subservient position because we feel we have to borrow. We are high import, and then we have to rely after we have been borrowing, and we are now at a stage where we're asking them to make it easier for us to borrow. Make it easier for us to borrow. When in fact they do want us to borrow. Because when we become, what does the Bible say about he who borrows?
Slave to the lender.
Yes. And institutionally, the systems of this world historically have been set up to serve the capitalist, imperialist orientation in the world. That
Mhm.
system is still there, right there. It is at the root and at the core of all that they do. All you might see is a change in the way it manifests itself, because
Mhm.
the economic order, it essentially remains the same, but it changes its manifestation because that is the nature of life. You have to change, and they change and
Mhm.
adapt where it is necessary for them to remain entrenched, but always keeping us in that marginalized and subservient position. And when you have to depend upon them for your imports, when you have to depend upon them for their finances, when you have to depend upon them for the expertise and their consultants, etc., you find yourself in a position where all of your society is open. So you can't borrow from them if you don't want to buy into their moral philosophies. You can't borrow from them if you don't want to buy into their social perspective dispositions. If you want to do these, if you want to borrow from them and benefit from their generosity, you have to subscribe. And these institutions don't simply come with regulations relating to economic impositions and interest rates and stuff like that. They come also out of a culture which pushes a certain moral platform. And right now, countries like Barbados, who come to them on bended knees, find that they're forced into a position where you have to accept. This comes along with the money that we give you. This comes along with the accommodation that we give you.
Mhm.
This comes along with
Mhm.
everything that we give you. So if you want that, you have to take that. And the unfortunate thing is that it is happening at time when we have at certain levels of leadership in government, in business, and high society, people who themselves may be oriented towards these value sets. So they find it easy to accept these value sets,
To
and then they
accept
want
it.
to push it
Yeah.
on the rest of us.
Yeah. When I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, and I know Caswell, you can jump in there with any questions that you might have as well. I'm thinking back to the throne speech, and that was given by our president, which you said reflect the government, and it talked about us being this first world country that was progressive, That was the general feel of that, that we will have to line up with these international bodies. And I'm wondering, or do you see anything specific that's happening in Barbados that you would say, you know what, that is because of what, that's exactly what the throne speech was telling us. It was like a foreshadowing that this particular thing was going to happen. Is there anything in particular
Well,
that you can
Marcy,
highlight?
you made reference to the speech in Parliament, my reflections upon the throne speech and some of its content, which gave clear indication as to where government policy was going to be taking us. But we've had some changes as well to employment. Caswell is good on these things. We've had some changes as well with respect to employment legislation, where you were seeing an attempt to well, successful attempt to get past the House Assembly to add to you've got constitutional provisions for the protection of rights in Barbados, right of religious expression, freedom of association, right to life, right to property, etc., etc. Notwithstanding your race, your color, your creed, that is your faith, your religious faith, that type of thing. But here was an attempt to add to that sexual orientation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to me, that's a clear indication as to where the government at the time wanted to take this country. I haven't heard anything since then to suggest that it is still not the case. But that directly correlated with the content of the throne speech. If we are going to live in this current world and be a part of the institutionalized systems of this world and benefit from them, then we have got to comply. So here it was, a clear case where the Minister of Labor is very disappointed in this respect, was bringing legislation to the Parliament. It happened in two instances, very close to each other at the time, where we wanted to include those rights that are to protect those categories of person, and we want to include this business of sexual orientation. There's a discussion which Henry Ford and these guys had back then and dismissed it. But here is the government of the day trying to reintroduce it through new legislation. So when you look at what is happening with respect to labor laws, when you look at with respect to what is happening at the level of the school, when you look at with respect to these things, you have a clear indication that there is this mischief afoot to change Barbados in this regard. So you can look at your labor laws, you can look and see what they are doing with respect to what they're trying to introduce at the level of the school with respect to our educational system, and the farce of that assessment back, that evaluation assessment back there, and subsequent child right protection and stuff. You have to be very careful, because little by little you're stepping down the path of darkness, and that's where I stand.
No. I'm thinking of I don't know if you heard of what happened with a Christian-based group in Barbados, Praise Academy of Dance, that did a theatrical piece based on science and the Bible. And the NCF, which is under the Ministry of Culture, disqualified the piece. Not based. They had nothing to say about the technical the technical aspects of the piece, but all because of the content of the piece. And the piece was based on the Bible and on science, saying that there are only two genders, X, 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 Y, and has left a lot of the children confused. And when you hear, if you hear of something like this, do you reflect back to I'm going back to the throne speech and the charter? Did you
and
see all of this coming?
This is what we're talking about. I've heard about that. I don't know fully the details, but I've heard about that incident. Now any organization, if it is engaging the public in an activity, any organization can set the regulations, the rules that would govern how the public engages in that activity. Any competition can have its own rules, but where you come to a place where the capacity, the ability, the privilege to express one's religious faith, to submit content which does not breach the regulations, but becomes becomes subject to persons' biased thinking, becomes falls under the scrutiny of subjective thinking, then you have a problem. Because if a grouping submits to a competition and the rules do not specifically prescribe in any way that this type of activity is not to be a part of your submitted content, then I can't see why somebody operating from some subjective and biased position would want to say that it ought to be disqualified. And even if the competition was being held, rules set, and those rules suggested that you cannot submit content which speaks to your faith or emphasizes the value of faith in relation to science, or highlights the correlation between science and faith with respect to gender and gender related issues. If the rules suggest that, then you have to wonder why in Barbados of today we would have any kind of government related organization, quasi government related organization, central government related organization, setting up any kind of activity to engage the interests of the public and coming with rules like that. And if the rules were not set, then how do you allow for someone with a biased disposition, based on whatever that bias is, to come and disqualify an entity or a grouping with submissive? That is a dangerous thing. We accept those things, we're going down a dangerous path. But it is part and parcel of what is happening around the world today. It is the imported way of looking at things that small developing countries, open economies like ours, are borrowing from. We're not only borrowing their monies, we're borrowing their cultural disposition and their cultural orientation. And where you have leadership that buys into that, then we buy it lock, stock, and barrel, and then seem to want to impose it upon our society.
You said we were borrowing, but we weren't borrowing, we were purchasing those moral positions from the outside world, because you were so correct when you were talking about the creeping into the labor laws, things like sexual orientation. We already have sex, because you cannot discriminate against a person based on sex, right? But then they say not only sex, but sexual orientation. That is not a class. And I have it in front of me, because when Bishop started to speak to it, I reached in my bike, because my bike is never too far from me. It says the grounds referred to in subsection 1 are these are grounds of discrimination: race, B, origin, political opinion, trade union affiliation, color, creed, sex, sexual orientation, social status, marital status, and then domestic partnership status. This domestic partnership is when you have a husband and a wife and a wife, or what do you feel like calling them, or two husbands, two husband and husband. It is nonsense. But they put that into our laws, and that was supposed to facilitate other people coming into Barbados who want to bring their money in. I remember when I was an immigration officer, we had things like prostitutes were not allowed into Barbados. If we knew they were prostitutes, we were not supposed to let them in. I put back several on planes when I was a young immigration officer. And I remember one night an MP came up to collect his, and I had on the plane already, because I called his house. The person came, she said, well, she was a house guest of this particular MP. And I said, well, okay, I knew the MP, I knew his wife. So I called the wife. I said, you expect any guests? She let me know. I said, she's lying. I put her back on the plane. Well, he was cruel, I told my supervisor, look, she told me that she was going to stay with this house guest of this MP. I called the man's wife. I knew her. She told me no. That's enough for me, And in any event, you have no authority to overrule me. You're not the minister. But all those things have changed now. So immigration officers don't have any power. Everything goes. So when you see it and it is right in front of you, and if you don't, your eyes are wide shut if you don't want to see what is happening. They are going to take us down this road, and I don't want to go with them. Trust me, I'm not going anywhere with them. But a lot will follow. I will not call you, Bishop, there. I will not call you them or there. But but that is creeping in now too, because next thing you know, because it's got as far as care at University of West Indies, because you have to speak to people in their own pronouns now. So everything in this country is being corrupted, and it's being corrupted, and I'm not embarrassed to say it, by one particular leader who seemed to want to be on the public, the international public, on the stage, and get noticed. So in order to be noticed by them and be loved by them, we have to adopt their standards. And it is destroying this place, because I still have some of those standards that my mother taught me, and I ain't letting them go. And that's what we have to do with the people in this country. We have to hold them to the training that we had when we were young. Not all of it, because we talk about those. I'm not trying to be licks for me. I never licked them, but But other than that, we had morals, we had values, and it seems as though, and I don't know if you will agree with me, but it seems as though anything goes in this country now.
Yeah.
Once we had a situation where when we celebrated things, we had worship, we had whatever, depends on what it is. Now, every time we have something, we got a big bunch of noise jump up, and you can't hear yourself think. And that is driving our young people mad.
Yeah. Mr. I know that we have a limited time with you on here tonight, Bishop ATHERLY, and it's so, you don't know how it feels to see both you and Caswell on tonight, Mr. FRANKLYN on, because it reminds me, of how good God is to Barbados, and that He's thinking of us. And for those of you out there who have grasped the idea that we are the opposition, when you see these two men on here, I hope you will get some courage and know that you stand up for what you believe in, even if you're standing alone. Even if you're standing alone, stand up for what you believe in. But Mr. Bishop ATHERLY, what would you say to the churches? Do you think that if this thing that happened with this particular arts group, Christian-based arts group, which basically, when I listened back to your speech in Parliament, was saying basically what you said in Parliament, and it is really the content. You were even at it harder than what the piece was saying, and we were disqualified. Do you think that church leaders need to be careful at this point? What do you say to churches and church leaders looking at what happened with this group?
I think the church in Barbados needs to be much more socially active. I want to choose my words carefully, not politically active, but socially active.
Can you define what that is?
Socially active means, you've got to engage the world outside of the walls of the church. You've got to get outside of your organizational skin and touch the world out there and engage the world. Now, that world is the institutional world out there. That world is a commercial world. That world is a political world. I have always said to people, some Christians I hear say, I will never be involved in politics. Some of them don't even vote, and they never get politically active. Look, Marcia, you don't have to go outside of your house for the political process to impact you. In the privacy of your bedroom, The political process will determine whether or not you have a bed to sleep on, how well you
Mm-hmm.
can sleep, what rights are afforded your wife or your yourself as a husband or your children. The political
Mm-hmm.
process comes through our front door, through our back door. It determines where our children are educated, how they will be educated, what they will be taught, what they'll be taught. So what I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to say is the church in Barbados is too detached from the social landscape. The church in Barbados needs to be a bit more activist, needs to be a bit more active without being
Mm-hmm.
partisan. That means, by that I mean, if you have to criticize the government of the day constructively, you do it. If you have to criticize the other party or parties when they get the chance because you don't see the policies being in the interest of Barbados, you do it. But the church has to have a voice. The word that we live, the word that has changed our lives, is not something to be bottled up inside. It is not something to be expounded within the four walls of the church every week or every Sunday. It is something to be applied to our life and our living circumstances. It teaches us how to engage those who are opposed to us. It teaches us how to engage those who are allies with it and supportive of us. It teaches us engage those who are engage those who are given to right conduct and right living, lawful living, etc. So the church needs to be more activist, needs to be more active, needs to be more socially engaging with the community.
Mm-hmm.
Church leaders need to avoid the business of compromise. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you may love a particular political party. That's fine, no problem. If you think the B's have done better, or the D's have done better, or the N's or whoever else have done better, that is fine. That's your position. But on the issue of principle, what does the Bible stand for? What does God say to you? What is in the interest of the people? Where are we heading as a country? How are we looking after the interests of our future generations? How are people being treated on the job, whether they're in the public service or in the private sector? How are single women being provided for in Barbados? You see, Caswell is involved in trade union activity, and people might think that that's the business of trade union leadership, but it must bother church leaders when girls have to work in gas stations under conditions which to me are not good. Health is
Mm-hmm.
threatened, wages are poor, working hours are strenuous, and all kinds of things. When people in the police service have to pay to get lunch when they are trained in school, which is something I can't believe. I'm saying when people, various sectors of this society are being disadvantaged or being exploited, the church must not leave that voice to trade union leadership. We can speak on the
Yes.
basis of principle. The church has to be able to engage governmental leaders and political practitioners and say, look, this is wrong. I support the party, but this is wrong. And I find church leaders put themselves in a position where they subject themselves to compromise because they want to court or curry favor from the government of today. And that's not only with this government, I've seen that over time. I've been present when I've seen it actually being worked out right before my very eyes. And church leaders have to refrain from that, cannot put themselves in a position of compromise, and they must lead the church in a more militant way and make the church more activist in terms of engaging society on societal issues. And like I said, engaging society has to do engaging business leaders when they exploit the poor people in Barbados, engaging the government when they want to take us down a wrong track, engaging the banks when they make life hard for Barbadians. And the church has to do that.
Mm. Yeah. So
Well,
I have to go ahead, Caswell.
no, see, because I didn't want him to leave before I asked about his views on the educational reform. I know he's close to education people. So I said I know you're close to people involved in education, and I said I said that I would like to hear your views. about what is
Well,
happening
I think we got to be. I think we got to be very careful with the business of educational reform, both from the institutional perspective and from the curriculum perspective. We got to be very careful that we don't exchange, if we think we are facing down one devil, that we don't exchange one devil for another. We have a system right now in terms of transfer from primary to secondary school, transition from primary to the common interest mechanism. And there are defects and deficiencies in that system, in every system. And it creates a position of class bias in Barbados. It feeds the existing class bias in Barbados. But people are able to use their political connections in terms of how the system operates to get what they want done. I'm afraid
Yes.
that we're going to be shifting to a system which might make that even more likely. It might make that even easier, and people become more disposed to exploiting the system to get their interests served in a narrow way. So I'm saying we got to be very careful how we transition. I believe that the secondary school system in Barbados needs to ensure that we have a number of schools which specialize in various areas of curriculum and subject activity. I have suggested publicly when we did the by-election in St. George, the St. George Secondary School, in my view, is properly positioned to have a focus on agriculture. It doesn't have to be the only one, but it's properly positioned because of the geographical and other dynamics around it to be disposed towards that. Then there are those other broad areas of subject and curriculum activity and interest that we need to specialize in. But we need to get away from a position where a person who does the common entrance exam must feel that he or she must aspire to go to Harrison College or Long or Queen's College. And that if you perform such in a given exam on one given day of your life, that you're going, and if you go to St. George, you are dunce and you're dunce forever and nothing good can come of you. Or if you go to parking, we need to get away from that. And I believe we can do that by addressing systemically the business of the specialty attaching to some of these schools, addressing the business of having children more related to schools in their community. It certainly helps with the business of transportation. Now, institutionally, therefore, there are things we can do. When it comes to the curriculum, there are things we can do. What do we need to produce in Barbados? Traditionally, we've been feeding people into our community college and into our university in certain areas of academic interest. They've gone there, they've graduated, they've come out. And then they come out and find themselves in a world of commerce for which they're not properly prepared to take a significant role because the qualification does not quite match what is happening out there in the productive society. So we got to try to create a better match between what we're seeking to produce as a country and how we're training people in our institutions at tertiary level, especially for taking on roles in that. We got to sow, we have got to sow, encourage domestic investment, not only foreign investment as we oriented now, but especially domestic investment away from certain narrow areas of investment to see if we can encourage them as government through its policy to invest in wider areas, therefore creating a breadth, a wider scope in our productive societal efforts, and therefore having people trained to do this. If you listen to young people in Barbados today, I don't know if Caswell is hearing this. He's a man with his ears to the ground. Marcy, you might be hearing this.
Are you hearing him,
Do not
Caswell?
No, he started back now.
Okay, go ahead. Go.
You
We,
were
we
stuck.
missed
You
you
were
there a
stuck
little
for a
bit.
bit.
they do not hold up. They do not hold much hope for a future in Barbados. And in fact, a lot of them are saying they want to get out of Barbados. A lot of them want to go into Canada, see what they can get there. If they can get to the United States, it's much more difficult want to do it. But they do not have a vision of a future in Barbados to which they can contribute or which can contribute to their well-being and the families which they hope to raise. So the educational reform must treat to these things. What do we want to produce as a society? What do we want Barbados to become? How are we going to build our students into instruments that will serve those interests and build out this country? If we don't do that, we're going to find ourselves simply exchanging one system for another, which might become more subjected to political interference and political mischief. We don't want to change just for changing's sake. I say we have to really study this thing and move forward. I'm not too satisfied or fully satisfied that what we're hearing thus far gets us there.
Yeah.
What I want a follow-up question or a follow-up thing.
I know. Well, one second. I know he has a limited time. We had agreed. So the last question. I know you have a lot of questions here. Yes, he has to come back. You have to.
Yeah, I can come back, Marcia. I do have that plane to catch tonight, but I'm willing to come back.
That's why I want him to. Right. Go ahead.
You know, prior to the common entrance exam, the people who had money went to Harrison College, and people who had a little bit less went to Common Mayor and Foundation. If we change our system, are you worried that people don't have a place where the poor man, for instance, my father had 15 of us, and he worked on the plantation. There's no way that he could have paid to send me to Common Mayor. You know, are you worried that something like that is on the horizon once more?
Yeah, I do worry, and that's what I was trying to intimate. We got to be very careful. The system right now reflects a bit of classism, and to a large extent, look, take this for instance, my friend. You live up in certain parts of Barbados, so some of the more socially and economically elevated parts of Barbados, terraces or heights. I hate to use those phrases, but you live comfortably there. 2 children in a house, 2 parents perhaps, or even a single parent who's a professional. You're living in comfort and convenience. You go home, you have access to your computer, you can study, blah, blah, blah. I would invite you to come down into Thomas Gap, President Kennedy Drive, or down to places like Paris Gap, where they had the unfortunate fires today, or places like Powder Road or Dean's Village here in St. Michael Central, where my church is located. And you go to some of these houses, 4 and 5 children, three rooms on their house. And every single noise that comes from outside of the house, you hear on the inside. Everything that happens in the house is exposed to everybody else in the house. Totally different environment. And all I'm saying, you got to be very careful when you try to change the system. It's not just the institution of the school that you're looking to change. It's not just the curriculum that you're looking to change. You have to change the societal environment in which our children must learn and study. Because the guy down in Paris Gap, in a small wooden house with 3 rooms, with enough abusive noise coming from outside, because you can hear everything that the people outside say. So the guy or gal who is up there in the heights, the terraces, or the more upscale thing, who have the convenience and the comforts and the privacy. And these things make a difference. Education is not offered in Barbados in a vacuum. So we got to see how we can treat to these things. Simply saying that we want schools of excellence and we're going to transition from this to that. And it's not as simple as that. And you don't want a system, I can continue to repeat, that will allow for political manipulation as this one does. You do not want to condemn poor people to the bottom of the barrel or the bottom of the ladder all of the time. You want to, if you're going to reform the education system, reform it such that equity of opportunity or equality of opportunity, as far as that is possible, is offered to all. And I'm not too sure that we are at that stage.
Yeah. Well, Bishop ATHERLY, always a pleasure to be in the company of courage. I see you as a man of courage. I really do. I know we don't know each other well, but I watch you from afar, and I want to say that it's an honor to have you here tonight. And when you come back from that trip, we would love to have you on again, just to speak on different issues, sir. And
All right, God
for me
willing, I'll be willing
personally,
to do.
yeah,
I'll be willing to do that. God willing. Bless you, Caswell. Bless you, Marcia.
Thanks,
yes,
get it right.
yes, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless you. Ah, that was wonderful. How was that for you, Caswell, to be there with
Yeah,
your
you
opposition
know,
buddy again?
yeah, I was saying that when he was talking, I said this is 2/3 of the opposition, former opposition, um, on the road again. We just needed Crystal.
So it was just
Yes,
the three of you,
just the three of
and
us.
the three of you. Do you hear that opposition? You hearing that tonight? It was just the three of them, and now we still have Caswell, and so many of us have joined them, right? And have joined Caswell. So many of us all over this island, outside, people in the diaspora. We are all here, and we have with us tonight one of the voices that he is one of those pastors and one of those spiritual leaders that he will lift up his voice, and he will stand up and he will speak on behalf of the people. He gets involved in what's happening in society, and during the COVID period, he really helped a lot of us. He was a voice. We were waiting for him to say something. We wanted him to say something. Yeah.
And they
And
tried to
so,
take him out. And
yes,
they tried to
and
take him out.
they tried to take him out. They tried to take him out. But let me welcome him, and I'm going to ask him, if you're listening to the YouTube, that you will have to turn it off, because we don't want it coming through your speaker, sir. So let me welcome Apostle LYNROY Scantlebury.
Well, pleasant good night to you, Marcia. Thank you so much for having me on your show tonight. And Mr. Franklin, it's good to see you, and great to be on the show with you tonight as well.
Yes, I'm hearing. Oh, brother. There's an echo that's going on.
You're getting an echo? Okay, let me just check to see if my volume is good.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. But there is an echo on my voice.
Okay.
Mr. Franklin, you speak and see if you hear the echo. You're muted.
No, I'm hearing the echo too. And I'm hearing myself coming back at me.
Okay. Well, I'm hearing very well, actually. I'm not hearing that echo at all.
Okay, so what you can do is just leave and come back again. Okay, just leave and come back.
Okay, will do.
Thank you so much. Yes, sometimes these things happen, and we really want to hear from him, because Bishop talked about the church being socially involved and culturally involved, and all of that. And this is one of those pastors that is very involved in what's happening in this country. So I've just put him back in the studio, and we're just gonna wait here. It's doing the same thing again.
Okay, I'm not certain. Are you still getting that echo?
Yes, we are.
I'm not certain what's happening.
Well, he might have YouTube or whatever on.
No, he says he doesn't have that on. Okay. All right. When he speaks, we're not hearing anything.
Yes, I'm not actually hearing anything when you're speaking either. So,
okay. Do you have external speakers?
No, I do not.
You do not. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is okay. Let me turn off your mic and then tell you. Okay. What we're going to do, we will have to do is to just let you speak. So I'm going to tell you what I want to talk about, because nothing is stopping us from hearing you tonight. So I'm just going to let you go, and then I don't we can't hear you yet. I'm gonna just let you go. I want you to talk about what the response of the church should be, and as we reflect on just what has happened to the recently with NIFCA and the Praise Academy, the dance school presenting, or the art school presenting something based on Bible and science. We want to talk about that. We want to talk about freedom of expression in the country, freedom of religion, freedom of conscience. Do you see these things under threat? So can you talk about that? And then when you're finished, we turn off the mic and we go again. So go ahead.
Okay, well, listen, I just want to be very, very clear on what I want to say here tonight on your show, Madam Weeks. The church in Barbados should have been speaking up the moment that COVID came to our shores, or so-called COVID, because as far as I'm concerned, it never really existed. We have been dealing with a very carefully constructed uh, devilish system in Barbados, especially where this administration is concerned. I found that many of the church leaders in Barbados got so afraid to speak out against what was happening, even after we started to realize the truth of what was happening during COVID. And it has led to a very, very dangerous level of spiritual apathy here in the island of Barbados. And I have been speaking out against this administration, and from what was revealed to me from the Lord in relation to what they had planned. And because of this silence of the church, they've continued with their systems, they've continued with their attacks on society, they've continued with their attacks on the children, and by extension, the attacks on the church. Now, during COVID, as you would know, I spoke very heavily against it, and now we've actually seen exactly what that whole situation was about. During that time, I personally came under attack from ministers here in Barbados, both male and female. Our ministry, we were attacked very heavily, and we have not yet spoken publicly about it, but we will eventually, because we want to show the church community how much they have been lied to, and how much they have been tricked by this administration. And we came under very heavy scrutiny, our ministry, my wife and I in our ministry, and we went through a period of time. And of course, Mr. Franklin, he was right there with us. As a matter of fact, when we were at COVID, and I'm going to say this so that on some level, individuals have an understanding of what we had to deal with. Mr. Franklin contacted us regarding our phones being tapped while we were at Paragon. So this situation that we went through had nothing to do with COVID. It was just because we were interfering with their plan. And I am thankful to God for using myself and using individuals like Mr. Franklin and Mr. Corbin, and gentlemen like Lumbumba and Bongo Lights, and those individuals who came to the fore and began to speak publicly against what was happening. But the church in Barbados has gone silent, and because of that, this is where we are today. And it seems like there is a section of the political hierarchy here in Barbados that can do almost anything and get away with it. And I think the time has come for the church in Barbados to begin to speak out more strongly against these things that are happening, and not just speak out, but begin to call for resignations. I personally believe that the Minister of Education and the Chief Education Officer they need to resign. There's no way after all of these things that's happened in Barbados, there's no way that they should be getting up in the morning and going to work. Barbadians, and especially the church and the church leaders, should be calling for their resignations. And I'm seeing where, with all of these things that are coming and beginning to happen, it's because the government of Barbados, they've realized that much of the church is now afraid to speak directly to them and to say this is what needs to be done here, especially after your situation and then the recent case at the Spring Memorial School. This is a place where I believe ministers should have gotten together and made a stronger attempt to bring down this systemic regime that is interfering with the proper education of our children and also the running of our country. We are in a really bad position right now, and it's the church is under attack. The educational system is under attack. The children is they're under attack. The family is under attack, and the day-to-day living of Barbadians is coming under very, very serious attack by this administration. And I want to make it abundantly clear that my voice will not be silenced. I will not be at any time ever afraid to speak to the issues and to speak to what is happening. But I do want to say this tonight before I say anything further. What the church must understand is that we are under a very carefully designed witchcraft system. And my personal belief is, and I did that, but the moment that our flag was buried in Ghana, that should have been the wake-up call for ministers in Barbados. That alone should have been the wake-up call to let the churches and the church leaders in Barbados know that we are dealing with individuals that are very deep in their witchcraft. And because the church did not get together to deal with it, but then they got together to conspire with the government during COVID and came after the church very heavily. The church was the first element in the nation to be closed and then the last to be reopened by this administration. So it has been an attack on the church, and it has continued to be an attack on the church. And what we need right now, we need more men and women of God to be more strong, more vocal on these elements. And I will say it again. I will say it again. As a man of God, I personally believe that it is time for the Minister of Education and the Chief Educational Officer to resign. They have no right being in front of us any longer. They have lied. They've lied over and over. They lied about replacing prayers with mindfulness. They lied about their knowledge of the IDB test that was, inflicted on our children. They lied about the signs in the schools. If you remember, there in St. Philip, where the Minister of Education went and they had these different signs they said they were given to them. They lied about that because I got a call from a friend of mine who is an employee at a primary school here in the north, and he told me specifically that he was to put those signs up at the school. And after that situation happened in St. Philip, the school was called and they were told not to put the signs up. So the Minister of Education knew that those signs were already at the primary schools. And then recently with the situation at the Spring Memorial School, I mean, that's horrible. These individuals should not be operating at any level any longer where our educational system is concerned. It's time for us to stand up. And when we say we want you to resign, then that's what we want. And I think the time has come for the church to come together. Mind you, there are individuals who are waking up, but we're waking up a little bit too slow. And this is allowing the government, and then, of course, those who are running the government, because they're basically the pawns on the international chessboard. But somebody is pushing them. And I think I remembered when the Minister of Education was in St. Philip when we had the issues with the signs. When I watched that video clip, she stated that her government has not signed on to any of these conventions. And I knew that was a lie. And this is one of the reasons why you have not really seen her, because since that time, she's been put on the back burner. And the chief educational officer, she's the one that's speaking right now. So we understand this is a right thing. And the reality is that the people who are governing them have realized that they have been lying even to them about how they have been, making progress in terms of bringing into Barbados and into our educational system the elements and the conventions they have signed on to. But I want to make it clear here on your show that as a man of God, I see exactly what is happening in Barbados. I'm very clear on what I'm seeing, and I realize our freedom of speech, the main attack on our children. I think way back since 2005, after I got the vision from the Lord about the plan of the educational system, how they've planted individuals within the educational system to, bring curses and to change the destinies of our children. And this is where I have stood my ground over and over and over again to make sure that when I speak publicly on issues in Barbados, that I am clear on what I am saying. We've realized now that the whole COVID was not their plan. They went along with this hook, line, and sinker. They've damaged Barbadians. They've interfered with their future. They've interfered with their financial destinies, and they're consistently coming and implementing things to make life harder for the average Barbadian. And I think Mr. Franklin spoke about that, and Reverend ATHERLY spoke about that recently as well too. But I want you to know that what you're asking here tonight, these are things that are beginning to raise their head here in Barbados, and it's happening over and over and over again, which means that there is a hidden agenda. And it's time for church leaders in Barbados to make up their minds that we are not just going to be going and having a service on Sunday mornings. We have to do what is necessary to take our nation out of the hands of those who have been marked by the enemy to destroy Barbados. So I want to make it clear where my stance is, and I am in support of any move in Barbados to make sure that our people get to live well here in the island. Now, I'm going to say this. I was campaigning, and I met a gentleman who was he told me he was the driver of the first gantry crane at the port. He was the first person to drive, and he said he remembered the year when Barbados amassed over 200, I think he said over 290,000 tons of sugar. And he said if anyone asked during that time if Barbados was on its way to being a great nation, he said the answer would have been yes by everybody. And he started to cry, and he said what pains him is that he's going to die in a Barbados that's now struggling to amass 29,000 tons when they were doing over 300,000 tons. But he's going to die in a Barbados that was on its way to being great, but somewhere along the line, we've lost it. And we cannot allow individuals to continue to destroy the future of Barbados and the future of the people of Barbados because they are just a part of an elitist society. We have the potential as men and women of God. We have the power as the people to put a stop to what's happening.
Yes, Apostle, I mean, so very well said. You talked about several things, and you talked about resignation. How do we go about that? I mean, we could sit here and we say we know you've laid out the reasons why they should resign, especially those in the Ministry of Education. But how do we go about making that happen? How can we get them to resign? What are the steps? What would you say to people who are listening?
At this point, we do not have an opposition. So it is obviously something that cannot go to Parliament because we do not have a current opposition. But what we can do is to draft a petition and have individuals between 3 to 4 to 5 to 10,000 persons across Barbados to sign that petition, asking for the resignation of the Minister of Education and the Chief Educational Officer. That petition will be presented to the president, and we would ask, based on the signatures that we have, and presenting that to the president, we will simply say this is a petition signed by over 20,000 concerned Barbadians, and we have no confidence in the functioning of the Minister of Education or the Chief Education Officer, and we're asking for their instant removal. We're asking for them to resign. The president should have that kind of power in Barbados, and even if it goes to the point of drafting a petition to ask for the removal of this government, this administration, and for an interim government to be set up, and also for a date for elections to be called in Barbados, so that we can move forward with the work that is necessary to bring Barbados where it needs to be. I do not think that we will ever get to know the damage that has been done to Barbados until we have seen the back of this present administration. I've said it over and over and over again. This is the most demonic administration we've ever had. And I've had ministers of the gospel call me and, chewed me over for making that statement. But I stand behind what I said, and I stand behind saying it now again. This is the most demonic administration we've ever had. They're signing things behind the backs of the people of Barbados. And I think Mr. FRANKLYN at one point, due to sitting down and reading a document, realized that they had changed just a few words in the document to try to slide in what they wanted to do. But what we have to do now as the people of Barbados, we have to begin to see that our future is in trouble. Our destiny as a nation is being eroded. It's being taken away from us. And I'm going to say this. I mean, you can lose a leg and get a prosthetic for that. You can lose an eye and you can get a prosthetic for that. You can lose your hair and get a wig. But when you have lost your future, there's no prosthetic for that. And we have to get a serious message to our people. Our future is in trouble. And what I've realized is that they are moving us back to slavery, back to a kind of hidden, masterfully designed elitist colonialism. And I really believe that the time has come for ministers of the gospel to understand that it is not just our job to preach the word of God, but like Jesus, it is also our job when we see injustice, when we see things being done, that we become very outspoken. When we see Goliath, we need to be vocal. We don't need to be running. We need to be vocal. And I think the time has come for us to stand up very strongly and make sure that we do what is necessary to safeguard the future of our children and the future of the people of Barbados from destroying our freedom of speech, to destroying our spiritual roots, and trying to bring all kind of other things in that are not in alignment with what God wants for Barbados. The time has come for us to be very, very strong and vocal, and we must not stop until we get a result that says, hey, now we can move forward with what Barbados needs to become. And with this government in place right now, we're not going to get there. And the time has come for us to be very strong, do what's necessary to make sure that Barbados becomes the great nation it's destined to become.
Yes. Apostle, I see Pastor John Carter is there ready to come in, but you talked about resignation, and you talked about a petition, and we try to be as practical as we can be on these programs. So the question is it something that you believe that you would spearhead? Because I've seen a lot of petitions being done, and you don't get more than something like the pensions that I think would have been, we should have gotten, tens of thousands of signatures. I think it's only about 5,000, almost 5,000 signatures that we got. Do you think that this is something that you would lead, and because the church has more than 10,000 people, I think it's 100,000 people the church has. So is it something that you would lead and you would take that on?
Definitely. It's something that's been on my mind, and it is also something I know that we have to be very tactful about. But let's look at it like this: we have so many individuals across Barbados who are not happy with the operation of this government. That's Barbadians. We have many church leaders that are now waking up, many Christians that are now waking up. We also have the Democratic Labour Party. They're not happy with them either. So across the nation already, we have a already in place system that would allow us to reach over 10,000 signatures. But I will also say this: there are also a lot of Barbados Labour Party supporters that are not happy with this administration and are not willing to serve on this administration, and they know it. And this is why we have to be tactful. This is why the timing must be perfect, and we must do what's necessary to say to our people, hey, listen, this is our opportunity for the very first time to stand up as a people and to take our nation out of the hands of those who are seeking to destroy it. So definitely, spearheading something like this would be something that I would do without second guessing it. And I think that time is here. And I'm happy for the opportunity to at least share on your show here on tonight, Madam Weeks, and I appreciate you having me.
Let me ask Caswell. Caswell, do you have any questions for Apostle Scantlebury before Mr. Carter comes, before Reverend Carter comes?
No, not really. I'm just happy to see him and to see that he's alive. At least at one stage I thought we were going to lose him. But the Lord was on his side. So when the Lord, my old grandma said, when the Lord is for you, nobody can be against you. She just tell me this all the time, and I believe it, because I remember when they tried to infect him. You suspect that they had COVID, and then put them in place with other people you suspect, and like say, that person would have made them sick. So it was pure evil that they practiced against this gentleman here, he and his wife. But they prevailed. It was tough, but they prevailed. And I hear you say that you don't want to talk about it yet, but I think you need to do so, because you would allow people to see how evil these people can become, or how evil they are. And because people see going out and say, oh, we care, people care, but then what they put in practice. Marcy only tell you he went through a lot,
Mm-hmm.
He and his wife, but they were strong and they prevailed. I admire them. You know, they held their ground, and when they try to infect them with sick people, but you know, you got people who you suspect have COVID, and you want to put them in a room with other people who do suspect got COVID. You try to get somebody to infect somebody else. They did that with prison officers. They put two in the office, and that here's your one didn't have, and then one had, and then when they tested them, test came back, all two got again because that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to take him out. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, we're happy that you are here, sir. And when you are ready for that petition and ready to launch it, or if you believe we can be of any help to you with that petition, of course we are going to jump on, and we hope that you would join us at some of the we've had a roadside parliament, because the thing is sometimes we are doing things in silos. So, you know, there's one set of people over here doing this and another set of people over here doing that. You know, there are marches that are happening and so on. And I think things are happening, as we're saying, but we need to be able to come together on different things, you know, find what we have in common, and actually, you know, work on it. And we would see the numbers are there, but because we're working in different areas, you know, we don't realize how powerful we are. You know, I want Miss Reverend to come, but there's something you talked about an election, and somebody wrote about a by-election. How feasible is a by-election? I don't know all the laws as it relates to that, because we will have to wait another 3 years or so for the general election. A by-election, how do we get that to happen? Because a lot of people are just tired of them and want them to go. How do we get a by-election?
The issue of that would be on the constituency level. It would take individuals, because it's your vote, our vote, that puts them there in the first place, and it is your voice, our voices, that can move them. If we are not happy with their performance, then we determine that we no longer want you to represent us. And that is the kind of power that needs to be given to the people of Barbados. And well, I should say that is the kind of power that we have, but we do not exercise it. Okay. And this is where, if you're not happy with um, your representative, you get together with the people of the constituency. You do your own petition. You make a petition to the leader of that party, and you let that leader know we no longer want this person representing us. And evidently, once we have that system in place, it has to begin to move towards the system to create a by-election with the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And that is the process that Barbadians have access to, and we have a right to it. But many times we are so afraid to stand up and to speak out because we're afraid of being victimized. You know, you can't victimize everybody, but at least if we do what is necessary to bring to the minds and the consciousness of the people that we have that kind of power, then we can get a lot of stuff done. But if we continue to be afraid and we're worried about, you know, people knowing that we are part of this, or you know, being involved in this, we've got to get away from that whole issue of fear. And fear is crippling the activity of the people here in Barbados. And you know, as Mr. Franklin said, you know, and you know, we did go through a lot, and thank God for him. But I'll tell you this, on every level, and my wife she probably would be worried, but I'm going to say this to tell you about on your show tonight. I'm going to tell you what happened to me here in St. Peter. Okay. I was here at my office, and I had a gentleman that came to me, and I'm going to say this tonight on your show so that more people will hear it. And he said, I came looking for you, Mr. Scantlebury. He said, I'm a returning national. I live in Florida, And I came looking especially for you, my family. We're from St. Peter, and so basically came home. He said, "I want to talk to you about the last election that we had." Um, he said he is a friend of uh, a hacker uh, in Florida, and his hacker friend has a friend who is a hacker in China. And this gentleman told the individual who came to me, he said, my friend who's the hacker in Florida told him that his Chinese friend told him that the people in Barbados are idiots. And he said, he told him, do you remember when the electoral list was leaked in Barbados prior to the last election? And he said, that was only done because we already had the list. That's what the gentleman told me. He said that was only done because we already had the list. So the list being leaked would be kind of a reason why other individuals around the world, hackers and so on, would end up with the electoral list. That's as much as I'm going to say about that. But he said that the Chinese hacker told him while they were having the conversation that the people in Barbados are idiots. And until we wake up and realize that we are not dealing with people who care about us, we're dealing with people that all they want is to get what they want out of Barbados and out of Barbadians. And once they get what they want, they're finished with Barbados and they're finished with Barbadians. And I honestly believe that the time has come for our people, our church leadership, to wake up and realize that the time is now to fight against these systems and to do what's necessary to bring change. Listen, freedom will never be voluntarily granted by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. And until we begin to demand our freedom, we will continue to be under this kind of oppression.
Okay, thank you so much, Apostle Scantlebury. We could talk some more again. We would ask you to come back, especially when you set up the petition, and and that we can, as I said, work together. And we hope to be able to continue to work on several initiatives together. All right. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And it's been wonderful. Sorry, your mic can be on. We do a regular back and forth, but there's some interference trying to happen. But we made sure that that we could hear you tonight. Okay. And bless you and your church, and keep doing what you do. Okay. God bless you. Okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And we're going down the line. We have Reverend John Carter here. Caswell, I tell you, you're surrounded by all of these pastors.
Hi, John. How are you doing? I haven't seen you for a long time.
I haven't seen you for a little while, man.
Well,
you're still looking healthy and youthful.
Well, the youthful part is it. I was 65 just the other day, so I'm still youthful.
All right.
Yeah, well, Mr. Carter, I'm sure you have been listening to everything, and we've been talking about the church and so on. And my question to you, because we have about 15 minutes with you, it's what's next? What's next for the church in Barbados in light of what's happening in this country? What's next for the church in Barbados? What's the next move?
Well, I think the first thing we got to do, really, excuse me, I think the church needs to be educated about the issues that are prevailing. I don't think that generally people are fully aware or properly aware of all the ramifications of all the things that are happening, and that is I say that I say that the church is the one institution which is doing more to strengthen people mentally, socially, um, intellectually than any other institution, because more people gather um, for church meetings
Mm-hmm.
on weekends than for any other activity by any other group in Barbados. However, um, the I don't want to use the term unfortunate, but the challenge that the church faces is that it it is called primarily as a spiritual institution to impart spiritual knowledge and to prepare people from a spiritual point of view, so that um, much of its time, or the major portion of its time, is taken with that particular focus. But what we have to be able to do, my wife doesn't like the word able to do. She said, "I want
Mm-hmm.
to be able to do this, be able to do that." So let me see if I can find a different word, because in case she listens to me, she would know that I've tried to find a different word from being able to do. But what we must do is that in our teaching, in our communicating with our people, we have to incorporate aspects of the social challenges, financial challenges, economic challenges, constitutional challenges, in order to educate our people, effectively, so they can cope, not in terms of having hope or not feeling bad, but cope in the sense that they're able to speak with some level of authority and intelligence on also on the issues that we're faced with in our
Mm-hmm.
society. For instance, one of the things that has been, and you would know this, that has been current, is the Child Protection Bill. Um, what's her name? Davida um, Maynard Holligan has been, well, you had her in an event not so long ago. She has been able to speak at certain churches to try to explain some of the ramifications of that bill. What what is lacking is that enough churches have not sought that resource in order to educate its people on some of the challenges that we're going to face with in that bill. So that's an area that the church has to really get on the ball with. The people need to be educated um, on the challenges, on the issues that the nation is facing. Uh, Even in the area of our economy, again, I generally, um, people are not able to articulate a position or uh, some of the issues related to the economy at this time. I
Mm-hmm.
remember
Mm-hmm.
years ago, um, a guy who was leading a party and left that party to go and join another party, something that was unheard of in Paris. I won't call his name. Um, an economist. One of the things he had emphasized when he was with the original party was that we need structural change in the economy. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people made fun of him about that at the time. Uh, on the other party, a lot of people and some of the journalists really took him to task. But he was right. He was right. And COVID proved to us that we need significant structural change in our economy if we're going to be able to grow, if we're going to be if the economic force of Barbados are going to go, if you're going to be able to stand um, uh, firmly when certain things hit us. But you know, when when he moved from the party he was heading to the other party where he is now, he was never able to bring that insight to bear upon his
Mm-hmm.
new party, and that to me that is disappointing, to use a euphemism. That this is a major part of his philosophy, his economic philosophy, restructure this economy, and COVID demonstrated that we do need to restructure the economy. That we cannot put all of our eggs in the tourism basket. I see that we're going back to that. No, you know we are going back now to putting the emphasis back on tourism. So we're not looking to any major um, con, um, companion exports for Barbados to depend on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we've gone back with our dependency upon tourism.
On tourism.
Yes, and the truth is
Mm-hmm.
that having struggled so much in the 2.5 years with COVID and what that did to the economy, one would have thought that by now we would have had some robust strategy and program in place that at the very least we would have,
Mm-hmm.
with tourism coming back, we will have other things that will bring in will be equal in terms of supporting the economy of Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
those are things
So
that go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying to you that I was just saying that you talked a lot about education and you were listing out, several areas. You were naming, I'm sorry, several areas that you believe education needs to happen, even within a church setting.
Yes.
So you're saying teach the members about education, teach the members about tourism, teach the members about the child protection bill, or I say education, I mean the education reform, the proposed education reform. You're saying use the church as a way of teaching the members about the various issues, right?
Yes, and I'm saying that in terms of adult gatherings, in terms of there's no other institution where so many adults gather for instruction.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other. Okay, we will say this, the children are gathering in school every day, every week, so they are getting certain level of instruction. They're not. There's some meaty things, important things that they're not really being exposed to in terms of
Mm-hmm.
education because of the way the curriculum is structured. But certainly with the adults now, the adults are getting education in church, but
Mm-hmm.
it is limited. I'm not really saying that as a criticism. It is limited,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to expand it so that when we go away with understanding of how the economy is working. We go away with
Mm-hmm.
an understanding of how to deal with some of the challenges, social and education and other challenges that we're having. So when people raise questions with us, look, here's something. You know, during the COVID experience, a lot of people were saying the church is doing nothing. The church is doing nothing. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I understand what they were saying because the church doesn't really publicize all of its charitable work, right? Because of the nature of the church, the way the church it has been taught to function. It's not going to come up on. It's not going to put an ad in the paper
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Okay, we fed 5,000 people during this period of time."
Mm-hmm.
But the church was it was in the forefront, and the thing interesting about the church's um, contribution in that regard is that it didn't start with COVID. The church prior to COVID had been providing supplies for people in this country consistently. Now I don't have a
Mm-hmm.
church. You know, I tell people I'm a pastor for the flock. I'm a shepherd for the flock. So I don't have a church. But there are people who would call me. Marcia, there are people who would call me and say, listen, I need this kind of thing for my family. I need this for my children to go back to school, and so forth. Look, and there were churches I would call. I mean, even this week.
Yeah.
No COVID
So
done. I'm
you're
gone.
saying the church, because we don't have a lot of time left, but you're saying that the church had been doing the work, but because they don't publicize,
That's
then
right.
we didn't know about it. But before we go, Caswell, do you have any questions, or again, we're gonna have to have a show with with all of these guys back, because we're not doing justice to this topic, because I have so many questions for you. But Caswell, do you have a
Yeah.
question
No,
for Mr. Carter, Reverend Carter?
no, not just a comment, because he said that his wife um tell, don't like certain words that he uses, and I didn't know we had so many things in common.
But that aside, though, I want to quickly ask you. I have what, 3 minutes? I have casually some minutes. I have 3 minutes. I want to ask you, how do you get this message to the pastors to begin to use their churches as a place to educate? So I know it's a great idea, a great philosophical idea. Practically, how do we get this done? Do you really think that the pastor down the road is going to want to use his pulpit, for people to learn about the economy and tourism and education reform? Isn't that, aren't they going to say that's politics coming in the church? How do you really get education on various issues happening in the churches? How?
Well, you're asking me that?
Yes.
Okay. But you have an audience here. No, you have an audience who is listening to this program, and those people will go back and talk to their churches about these things. I am anticipating that they will go back and say, listen, it is true that we don't really get a lot of information. We're not really taught how to speak on these matters. We're not really taught how to examine and analyze these things that are happening around us. And we need to bring resource people in from time to time who will talk to us about these things. So that. So I'm expecting that the people who are listening to programs like are going to run with it, Marcia.
Mm, mm. Well, but remember, they're not the pastors of the church. That is the thing, that because you can't go into certain churches, casual and talking like people. I mean, they have already said, I'm not a Christian because I'm doing all of these things. So I'm trying to see how it's going to work. I believe it's a brilliant idea. I needed to say that, but I'm just trying to, like, working in my head, how practical it is. How do
Well,
you
I'm
get the
saying that
pastor to agree?
I'm saying that the members are the ones,
Okay.
the people who are listening to the program tonight, who are members of churches. They're the ones who have to go back and say to their church, look, these are things that are happening that we don't know about. Look, we've heard a lot talk about the child protection bill. What is that? What's all the controversy about? They got to tell their leaders, but we need to be educated with these things. Look, before I go, that young man you got there coming next, I need to talk with him, right?
You
Because
mean
I need
KEMAR
to.
Stewart?
KEMAR, yes, I need to talk to KEMAR because I need him. I need him. I got something happening later on this month, and I need to reach him. So I'm glad to see him tonight. KEMAR, I need to get in touch with you. So my number is 2348703. Call me.
KEMAR, I will send it to you if you didn't get it. Okay, I will make sure that you have that number. But I love that. I love what is happening, because here it is, a pastor wants to get the number for KEMAR. That's good, Mr. Franklin.
Of course, and I want, they can call me too.
The churches, listen, churches. I want the churches to know they can call Mr. Franklin. Did you hear him?
Let,
Make
let,
sure.
the dams call me. So I'm available for whosoever will.
All right, Captain, I must remember that.
All right.
Yeah.
I have.
Make
I
sure
actually
that.
have. I actually have 4 slots. I need 4 resource persons. So I see how I can get you in there.
Because
Yes.
I was talking about pensions. I was going wrong. I so far I've been to 3 Democratic Liberal Party branch meetings, and people say, Caswell, damn, Caswell changed. I ain't changed anything. I just had a message that I want to get out there. And whoever willing to listen, I will talk with them.
Wonderful.
Because what is happening in our pension system with our national insurance is horrendous. And I want people to understand, because they will only understand when they get their first check from national insurance for their pension. Then they say, oh, that's what Caswell was talking about all those years ago. I want them to really know.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on at the short notice, Reverend Carter. And, I'm going to be thinking about what you said about using the churches to teach on these things. And I see you are doing that tonight by contacting these gentlemen. And I'm hoping the pastors that are listening will take a leaf out of your book.
Like
And I'm
Marcia,
echoing again.
I
All right.
want to say hi to John Carter tonight. A very good man. I want to say John is a very, very good man. We actually worked together previously in Solutions Barbados, and John was like almost a mentor in the group. I admire John a lot. John is a very firm and fair person, a disciplinarian, but when he administers when he administers his discipline, you know he means well. Right. So I just want to say good night to John. I can definitely contact you soon.
I'm looking forward to it, KEMAR.
Yes.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Reverend Carter. Thank you so much for being here, and we're going to be working together. We spoke about some things today. So a lot of working happening, and we're coming. It's coming. It's happening. All right.
It is.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for
God
having
bless
me.
you.
God
Yes.
bless you
God
all.
bless you. Yes. Bye bye.
Hi, KEMAR.
Okay.
Yes, General Franklin. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I am a lot better than I was yesterday. And I hope I'll be better, even better tomorrow.
Well, I wish you all the best, all the well wishes. Drink some tea, get a tea, rub down if you have to.
Yeah, I've been doing that, I was just laughing. The women rubbing down, and now I reach a point now I say, look, she's on, but get to this point. So when they catch you and pass you, the old people say.
Guys, it seems we're hearing about this corporation tax. So we dealt with some other issues today, but we want to talk about this corporation tax that is being levied on businesses, and to talk about what we think might be, how will it really impact small businesses in Barbados? Are we going to see a lot of companies saying, well, you know what, we're going to have to lay off people, we're going to have to cut our employment budget because we can't afford it? It's just too many taxes, and the tax rate has just gone. Was it from 5.5% to 9%? Is that what it's gone to? Move from 5 to 9%, which is actually a 50%, almost a 50% increase in corporation taxes,
What do you
right?
want?
So
What do you want KEMAR to address too for me? Because people don't plan their business in 2-year cycles or 6-month cycles, as the government have us do sometimes. Because in 2018 or 2019, I can't remember the exact date now, government lowered the tax. People we do their businesses, even employ other people and stuff, and then the government changed the tax. I wanted to speak on the effect of that because you cannot put this kind of stress on people. 1 minute you change the law, you say, well, look, at least give it a little time to work, and then you go and change it back again, and give you 2 months notice. Well, not necessarily 2 months notice because this is November, a month and some weeks. So I want KEMAR, if you would address that aspect as well, because it doesn't allow for planning.
Well,
but
Caswell,
over to you, Kimar.
you are correct. Um, and when the government came in, the international business rate was around like between 25 to 30% for the international business sector, and the government actually dropped the tax rate from that high down to 5. Right? The reason for the government dropping the tax rate in the first place is because Canada and Barbados has an arrangement called the exempt surplus arrangement, where Canadian businesses can repatriate whatever earnings they had tax free back into Canada. So Ornafa is the genius behind this plan, and part of what you call foreign direct investment. He received billions of dollars coming in from the international business sector, right? And why Ornafa focused on this international business sector is because he was mentored by Tom Adams, and Tom Adams was one of the pioneers of the international business sector in Barbados. So when Ornafa came in and finished put the infrastructure in place, you had Canada and different countries in Europe coming in, sending in foreign direct investment into Barbados. So you had international banks, international insurance, accounting firms, mainly services business, right? And these services and these businesses had companies in Barbados. I said there was a guy called Eugene Melnick, who was a very rich billionaire, Canadian billionaire, and he moved his business assets into Barbados and expanded into many different industries. And it was a good idea actually, because it benefited Barbados in a very lucrative sense, right? So they were focusing on bringing high net worth businessmen into the country to help grow what you call GNP, which is gross national product, right? So gross domestic product would be the total wealth of the people, Barbadians living in Barbados. But gross national product could include the wealth of people who not domiciled in Barbados but have assets here. So through that we had a large growth of gross national product, or GNP, by the inclusion of this exempt surplus arrangement. The challenge occurred now when the Canadians, and this happened under Donald Innes, the Canadians expanded that exempt surplus arrangement to many other countries across the world who had cheaper tax rates. People who had tax rates at zero, people who had tax rates at 1, Ireland, who had tax rates at 12%. So the reason for dropping the tax rate from that high in the first place was to compete with other countries who had very low tax rates. Right? But that didn't stop it. $300 million worth of foreign direct investment, Canadian business, left the shores of Barbados during that time. So we had like $1 billion in deficit of foreign exchange not coming into the island anymore when those Canadian businesses left in droves and then migrated on to St. Lucia, Jamaica, and other Caribbean countries who have zero tax rates. Right? Now, the signing on to this new tax plan is not an idea that was conceptualized in Barbados. This was directly taken from Joe Biden in America. And the Americans came up with this Biden tax plan, which was a global tax rate of 15% to be charged on all international business companies, because what the European Unions and the others realized is that the Caribbean was used to launder money, right? So you had rich billionaires who had no way to partner money, who's trying to get away from being taxed in their countries at 40% and 45%. They're trying to get away from that. And they're coming and setting up what we call dummy companies or shell companies in Barbados. They don't even got a desk or chair in it, right? But they are running their money through it with a very low tax rate. I remember they're trying to get away from taxes, so they're running the money through these dummy companies and repatriating it back to Canada tax free. So they were using Barbados and other countries to get away from taxes in their home countries. So what the European Union did was to put pressure on the Canadian government, and the Canadian Parliament went on an entire attack on domiciles like Barbados, and the Canadian Finance Minister at the time, who was called Bill Marno, he was the owner of a company called Marno Chappelle, and he had his assets in Barbados, and he was doing the same thing that the Europeans were accusing other people of. So the opposition leader at the time, who was called Pierre Poilievre, we still the opposition leader now in Canada, he went after the finance minister in Canada, and he called Barbados a tax haven. Marcel, sorry, I'm going to send you the video that you could probably play on the show the next time of the Canadian Parliament discussing this. But Marno Chappelle was the company also responsible for doing actuary work on the NAS, right? So Bill Marno, let's say he had assets in Barbados, and the Canadians clamped down on him and clamped down on all the other rich billionaire Canadian people. Remember, we have two big Canadian banks here: First Caribbean and Royal Bank of Canada. Right? So even them were benefiting from these lucrative tax rates. So what the Canadian Parliament did was to say, well, look, this ain't gonna happen no more. This we gotta shut this down, and it expanded the arrangement, and Barbados dropped the tax rates to keep the business, but it didn't work for us. So now that we made the changes to carry it back up, it's much lower than what it was at first when they lowered it, right? But it still does us no good really, because you still have better jurisdictions around the world to do business in, right? You still have better jurisdictions to do business in. Right now, we do not have an international business minister. That's why the prime minister made the announcements herself, because the last international business minister we had was Ronald Topping. And when Ronald Topping stepped down from the seat, they never reappointed the international business minister. Right? So this Biden idea, this Biden tax plan, I say, was basically to tackle, they call it the profit erosion and profit shifting initiative, to stop the rich people in their countries from shifting their profits that they're supposed to pay taxes on into low tax jurisdictions like Barbados, and they label us as I said, tax havens, and put us on those international blacklists. So every time we turn around and we comply with the OECD, right? Every time we comply with the OECD to make these specific changes, the OECD then moves the goalposts on us and say, well, you do this, but you didn't do this. So then when you do what they say to do, then they come back with something else and say, well, you do this, but you didn't do this. No, Caswell says it all the time, that the government has no backbone as it relates to these international institutions. Ask Lynette Eastman, because she was the Minister of Commerce and International Business too, and she could tell you that when the OECD approached her and ONAFA about this same exact thing, that they refused to comply. They refused to sign any letters with the OECD about tackling the international business sector in a way which would raise the taxes and to which would raise the taxes and to completely dismantle the system, because this if you listen to economist Marla Dukaran, she coined it nicely. She brought it down to race, that we have made so much money from this as black people, right? That the Europeans and those countries became jealous and they became angry that the Caribbean was making so much money from this, that they started to blacklist us because they wanted the business. They want the money. So to get the money back home, they are systematically using this. I mean, you already said global, so they want it to be universal that every international business jurisdiction will charge 15%, so that you don't got no advantage over me, or you don't got no advantage over him. But the problem with that is that all jurisdictions are not equal. All countries are not equal. You don't have the same resources. You don't have the same systems. So when you make the global tax rate 15 across the board, you automatically give the advantage to the bigger countries who have the better infrastructure, more money, and more resources to work with. So Barbados essentially will be crushed under these new changes because even St. Lucia has us running around the track, and we can't even compete with St. Lucia. In these other jurisdictions, it takes 1 day. Bermuda, Bahamas, it takes 1 day to set up an international business. In Barbados, it must be that well, they give you a time frame, but it takes long to get anything done in Barbados. The banking system
So,
don't
so,
have the capital to. Sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
so yeah. So Kimar, you have to turn off your mic. Yeah, yeah. Something is wrong. Seems to be wrong with my microphone. So Kimar, the question is, I'm wondering, do we know of any other Caribbean island, any other country within the region have signed on to the Biden tax plan of this 15%? Is there anybody else, any other Caribbean island? Do we know of that?
But I'm not sure off my head what has happened with that, but I don't think many of them did. From what I've seen, the list is not populated. I can't recall the list off my head, but the list is not populated with Caribbean countries. Barbados was one of the first a few countries in the Caribbean to sign on to it. Like,
Yeah,
you could probably
there's a
type
lot
it
of
on. You could probably type it on Google, and it will pop up to show you the list of countries who signed on to the Biden tax plan.
So the question is, the other question is, what impact does this have on the average Barbadian, right? What does this mean in terms of our, our everyday life, and how does this affect us?
Yeah. Well, you might see some businesses leaving the country, yes. For those persons who work in the sector, we even saw First Caribbean rebranding back into CIBC. So when you see things like that, you know that the market is not doing very well. And throughout the Caribbean, we are seeing that the Scotia were selling out their assets. And recently, I think it was Gaston Brown, we are seeing a lot of the branches throughout the Caribbean being sold off a Canadian investment. So the Caribbean is no longer really lucrative for the Canadian banks. So people are going to lose jobs. Like I said on the show before, the banks have been doing something called reducing foreign exposures to the Barbados dollar, where these banks who operate in both US and Barbados currency, they're changing out whatever assets they have from Barbadian currency into US dollars and reducing the amount of Barbados dollars they're keeping on their books. And that is what you call exit strategy from the markets. Right? So the only thing they would pay are wages and salaries, maintaining property, plant, and equipment, and tax liabilities. Right? Tax liabilities. So job loss, reduction of some goods and services that are being offered, uh, and that would basically redound to the fact that you will have reduced ancillary services. So the ancillary services will not essentially be like the banking, but it will be like the printeries, people who provide the banks with paper. It will be like uh security guards who provide security services. Those people who provide the ancillary services will be impacted because you no longer have uh these businesses to provide the locals will no longer have these international businesses to provide services to. So that is really where it would impact us, but it will not impact us because most Barbadian companies are not international business companies. But what the government did to shield these international business companies was to bring all offshore companies onshore so that they will not have to pay international business rates, but they would now be charged locally and be recognized as a local company. And that was just to get off the blacklist, right? But then they were not billing the companies financially. So they didn't really pay in the local tax rates, you know. Right? The Prime Minister used a term that the companies have to be grandfathered in. What does grandfathered in means? Right? So the move that they made was to merge domestic companies and international companies and using their language again and to ring fence those companies and charge them a specific special tax rate. But they will no longer be classified as an international business company, but it will be classified as a local company. So when the international business police comes and say, well, look, you got this company operating here, that company operating here as an international business company. Realistically, these companies don't have any staff, no table, no desk, no telephone, no nothing. Just a shell of a company having billions of dollars of assets parked in it. You can't do that anymore. So what the government did to trick the international business police was to say, well, these companies are no longer international business companies. They're domestic companies. But they were never liable to pay the domestic tax rates. They were given their own special tax rates.
Sorry, we're not flowing as much tonight because of the sound. I'm having seem to have a problem with my microphone, I think. Caswell, do you have any questions or comments on this
No,
whole issue?
I just want to tell KEMAR that the Prime Minister knows what she's doing when she's talking about grandfathered in. There is such a thing as, and we usually hear that in industrial relations, where like in labor law, where let's say you have a change in qualifications. You know, your job now require you to have a bachelor's degree when prior you just needed A levels or CAP. Now the people who are already there that didn't have the degree, they will continue in those jobs. So they call that being grandfathered in. So what you just said, what it means that they will continue the way they were doing. You know, they're going to grandfather in themselves. I mean, you said they were not paying taxes. They ain't going to pay no taxes either. When she said grandfather, and she expected people not to understand what that means. So she said they will be grandfathered in. So what they were used to be doing before, they will continue to do under the new regime, but they will continue under the same under what they were practicing earlier. That's what grandfathered in means. That's what they're talking about. So she see, that is what politicians do. They tell you things in your face that no young people that can realize what it means, and then they can say, "But we told you so." Before they explain it to you, they can say, "But we told you so." Remember me said it was grandfathered in? That's what grandfathered in means. So when you hear these people are not going to be paying any taxes, it means that they were grandfathered from how they were used to be before, and they will continue to do it the way they used to do it. It is a mess. And deception, the politicians always try to deceive you. So
Yes.
they allow you to continue under the old system. That's what grandfathered in means. So they will just continue not paying taxes.
I tell you, from all night, my computer is telling me about some suspicious attempt and all kinds of things. This message has been coming up from I started tonight. You know, but we're moving on.
Not only you, Marcia. Today I got a message saying that some person wanted to change my login for Facebook, and they sent a message to my cell phone, because in order to do that, you got to come to my cell phone. Of course, I didn't do it, so I didn't respond. So, but somebody was trying to get into, so you're being good
Yeah.
company. Everybody want to know what
Yeah,
you're doing.
yeah, something is going on, and it keeps coming up here at the bottom right of my computer for the whole night, you know, and we're having this cross thing happening with the sound. So I'm not sure what that is all about, but we're pressing along. Okay, Kemar is back in. But you know, I was someone is saying here that Barbados and St. Vincent are the two Caribbean countries that have signed on to the Biden plan. Right. So only two Caribbean countries, Barbados and St. Vincent. This is Joseph Cadogan who is saying that. Yeah, but you know, I'm hearing Kimar saying, and Caswell as well, about this international business minister, that we no longer have that as a ministry. What's the impact of that on Barbados? You know, because this administration is going along without it. Is it that we no longer need that? Is that something that is obsolete now? Or are we, you know, what's happening with that, Caswell?
Well, I will tell you, as things go today in Barbados, we don't need any other ministers other than Mayor Motley, because she runs everything. She is in every conceivable thing. Every announcement in any ministry, she is there. She makes the announcements. Her ministers will not get the limelight at any point in time, except when there's something stupid to talk, like when they give things for Abrams to say. You know, but other than that, she is there. She is in charge. Nothing happens until she comes back to Barbados for one of her visits. You know, because she visits Barbados fairly often now, and then you will see she holds these meetings, these um, Paris Peaks or press conferences or whatever else, and look between press conferences up, and you will see that there's nothing coming from any other minister. So she's messed up everything, you know. Those fellas don't only because mind you, they're there to get a salary, and because the law says that she must have five others, or at least five others with her, so she's there doing just that, giving fellas a salary, and they sit there and shut them out and collect the salary. She is running. She is a one man show.
Hmm. Wow. You know, Kimar, any thoughts on that, and how so you know, Caswell is saying that she's doing it herself. Do you have any thoughts on the impact of not having one? Is it something that we need to, you know, that should happen urgently for Barbados to have this international business ministry back in place?
Well, the international business sector is actually the second biggest foreign exchange earner. Um, and we actually need a minister that has responsibility for that. That is said, Ronald Topping was the last minister we had in that area, and for a sector such as that provides so much money into a country, you got a whole race of ministers that sit down and do nothing, right? But the problem with this is that the amount of loop, I call it loop, the amount of loop that you could sit over. I don't think the prime minister really wants anybody there, right? Because you have our domestic sectors and you have ministers over them. But when you look on the international scene, you have a minister of foreign affairs who is Kerry Simmons. He's now doing a lot of traveling. You have the prime minister. She's doing a lot of traveling, right? The international business minister will be responsible also for managing the relationships, which also includes bilateral treaties that we have on investment, right? Which means that you could go around any country in the world as an investment representative and bring billions of dollars of investment here. And especially if you're an attorney, especially if you're an attorney, then it can become very lucrative in a very corrupt way too. Right? The Attorney General, George Payne, they are fellows that function heavily as attorneys in the international business sector, and they made quite a few bucks from that. Right? So it beats me really why we don't have a standalone minister for a sector that is as much as important as tourism. Tourism is the main earner, and then we have international business. So this is just really politics at play here.
But we have one for national beautification. Yeah. Yeah. He's
You
responsible for
said
sanitation in the
you said
parks.
that there's one for national beautification, but not for international business, which is supposed to be the second foreign exchange earner for the country. And I'm hoping Barbadians are listening, Mr. Franklin, because some of them still believe that this government is doing so great.
But
Is the country? Yeah.
but when you say one thing, they will say the next. Anybody could be minister with national beautification or anything like that. The problem is we have a lot of people in the house that you could pick as ministers and in the Senate, but we don't have ministerial um, type people that kind of ministerial material. So basically, she's suffering from a shortage of manpower, or rather, brain power, and that is why she probably ain't got none, because she can't find anybody to do it. All those people out there, but they basically their talents are breathing and what else? you know, I try to remember what else.
Caswell, you said the other 29, their talent is breathing,
Yeah,
breathing and excreting.
yeah. So she doesn't have the somebody there, for instance, somebody the caliber of Lynette Eastman, who could sit down there and manage because Lynette knew about international business. She understood international business. Before she was a minister of international business, she was the director of international business. So that was her profession. You see?
Right.
So you don't have a lot of these people but they were put them in charge of the unemployment benefits because most of them were unemployed at the point in time because they got no talent there, and that is the problem. So I can understand why there's no minister. Where you can find one? You have to find a minister in our constitution from the Senate or in the House. Now look through the whole gamut and tell me which one of them could be a minister of international business and knows what they're talking about. That is why we have so many consultants. You don't realize that this government has more consultants than all the other administrations ever put together. One, I ain't talking about Tom has 10 consultants and Barbara had 10 and somebody have 4, and then she got more than each of them. I'm talking about total all the consultants that all the other administrations have. These people got more than all of them put together. Because you have to
and
buy,
look at the state of the country.
but you have to buy the talent if you don't have it. And the problem is the people that they bring in ain't got the talent either. They bring in friends and they call them consultants and they pay them a whole bunch of money, $20,000 to change up national insurance. Now I'm paying people that kind of money. A member of staff of national insurance sent me a copy of the document with the salaries and stuff, and my eyes popped. And I can't understand what they would be doing that isn't already being done, bearing in mind that the deputy chairman of national insurance said on national radio that the national insurance scheme is very well managed. If it is well managed and you're doing it with the people you have, why bring 8 more chiefs? Just to give people money. That's all it is. they know how to spend
Mm-hmm.
on their
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah. Yeah. So, go ahead, Kimar. Go ahead, Kimar.
Yeah. I just wanted to quote something here from Alternate Views, by the way. um, on page 23, I spoke about Barbados being a small island developing state which has benefited significantly from foreign direct investment, right, since 1966. But since the global financial crisis in 2008, the world experienced significant drawbacks in private capital. So, like I said earlier on the show, Oinafa was right on the money, literally, in terms of benefiting from foreign direct investment through the international business sector. Yeah. I didn't know Caswell. Yeah, well, he benefited significantly from that since 2009, from between that time. So as time started to change, the global financial crisis saw a drawback in financial capital, and businesses were not seeking to come into the shores of places like Barbados, really, right? And that's why we say we lost close to between 250 to 300 million dollars yearly in foreign direct investment from that sector. Companies like Gildan don't really sell to Barbados and Barbadians, you know. Gildan produce and export. These companies come here, produce and export. The problem with these companies is that when they come here, right, the top level management is usually brought in from overseas, and it will give Barbadians the lower level jobs in these sectors, right? Don't get me wrong, this sector has benefited quite Barbadian significantly, right? But it's the same thing like the tourism sector, really and truly. Right? So Canada, as I say, was our main earner. The UK was one of our earners. So what the government did was to change the international business rate from 25% to 30%. And that measure was implemented in the budget, and it was supposed to earn the government close to $57 million. And I told you all about how the government redomiciled companies to Barbados and brought them on shore into our domestic space, right? So when that happened, it was supposed to protect these companies, as I say, from leaving, but that didn't work. They continued to leave, to the point that the prime minister fears up the sector so that we won't have any discussion about it really. But the sector has been teetering almost on collapse, and she didn't really want to speak about it publicly. But know that she signed on to the Biden tax plan, because she signed on to this thing in I think either 2019 or 2020. But they're giving the impression now that there's something new when she signed on to this thing about 2 or 3 years ago, you know. But they didn't really tell Barbadians this is what was coming. Harry Russell, a guy who's a banker, and I put the letter in my book as well, right? Harry Russell said that the implementation and the increase in the international business rates will not augur well for Barbados, right? And that's included in the book as well. And if you read that letter by Harry Russell, he spoke about the Barbados dollar being secure, and he spoke about income. He spoke about the tourism income, and he spoke about the international business sector income. And he proclaimed that whenever the tax rates go up, it's not going to go well for this country. And he's an experienced banker. And I want to agree with him and endorse what he says, because it is directly in line with what I also would have predicted. So what we will see now is the migration of more businesses into St. Lucia, into Ireland, into all of these better countries, and essentially ain't gonna be no more international business sector. Period. You can just have what they call domestic companies. So it ain't gonna be no differentiation between international and domestic, and that's what they're trying to achieve through all of the policies of the economy. There ain't a differentiation between domestic and international. Barbados will now be fully recognized. They're gonna destroy that international element, continuing to bring the companies into our domestic space. But what it will do is to push out businesses out of our domestic space and allow these international companies to come in and set up their domiciles locally, that they can now benefit from our local dollars and our local money at a competitive advantage, and that will see the phasing out. So, for example, Gildan being a t-shirt producer, if Gildan decides now that we ain't gonna really export to countries in the world, we can focus on the Barbados market. Any t-shirt producers on a small level than Gildan and get squeezed out the market. Right? So what the government will want to achieve by that, they want to bring more Eugene Melnicks into Barbados. Right? They want to bring more Arab billionaires into Barbados. They want to bring more rich people who could give them campaign money into Barbados. Give them citizenship by investment, because that's what we're focusing on. Give these companies, the heads of these companies, citizenship by investment, so that their assets and their net worth will now be counted in our local dollar space. You get it? You follow me? Hey?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I can.
Ooh. Not hearing you at all, Marcia.
Yeah, I can't turn on my my microphone when your microphone is on, so that's why it seems like you're out there, Tom. But I'm shaking my head. Yes, I understand, because they want the GNP to increase. So listen here. Let's just let's just take a look at what we have on the screen. We have a discussion that is going to happen tomorrow. And I don't know if Mr. Stewart can, join us. I know he's busy tomorrow, so I wouldn't even put him on the spot. But tomorrow we have a discussion. We will have a group that's dealing with the economy. And that is, we have another group doing the child protection bill. Then there's another group that is going to be looking at various areas. Let me get my phone here, because I'm forgetting all the areas. But you log on and you will be able to go into a group. Okay. Log on, and you're going to get into a group that you'll be able to discuss. We don't want the groups to be too large. We don't want it to be another, like a show. So it's not a lecture. It is you're coming up with ideas. There's one on education reform that is going to be there. I'm hoping that you can get on there. The format that we are proposing is that we are going to spend some time going through what are some of the challenges and the issues that are within those particular areas. And then majority of the time would be to come up with solutions to those issues, at least to start, because it's a first meeting. And then we come back together and discuss what we would have, whatever solutions that we came up with. We would come back out into the main room of Zoom and discuss those things. Okay, so we need somebody to be in charge of. I see CG on. CG, are you still here? I think I know who that is, and I think Mr. Franklin probably know who that is, and who would be very, very capable of doing the pensions and NIS reform. So CG, if you're listening to me, please call me at 236-7000. CG, you go by the name of CG on here. Call me 236-7000. We're looking for people. Heather Cole is going to take on the economy, is going to lead that group. Rose Corbing is, as you know, will do education reform. And Davida Maynard Halligan is doing the child protection bill. So we need somebody to work with Mr. Franklin, who is not, we're going to see how tomorrow works out for him. But he has taught us enough on here. I believe that somebody would be able to take on the pensions and NIS and pensions. And then we need somebody to do water. Water, call me please, 236-7000, because we don't want you to just turn up and then we are signing on the spot. If you know that you're working on that, then at least you can prepare yourself before, a little bit before you come on. So we definitely need somebody for water. Yeah, so let us know. I see in the chat people are suggesting agriculture as well. And we'll see how many persons we have, because if we don't have enough, then we can't do all of these breakout rooms, right? So how many of you are planning to be there tomorrow? It's 10 o'clock. But can I get some thumbs up? Are you planning to join tomorrow at 10? There's no march. We're going to be on Zoom, and this is a Zoom link. Go to the marciaweekshow.com and you'll be able to find the link. Will be there. Or you can check on my Facebook page, the Marcia Week Show Facebook page, and you'll be able to get the link from there, or go to the marciaweekshow.com, as I said before, and get the Zoom link. Okay? Please, yes. So we're closing out, Mr. Franklin, a different kind of a show tonight. A different kind of show tonight. I'll give you the final word. Go ahead. You're muted.
I want to close up by calling upon the Ministry of Education, letting them know that I'm aware that there is a teacher, male teacher, sexual predator, who they're told not to come to school, let this thing blow over. And he's not suspended for his behavior. He said he made some advances to a little boy. The little boy took the things to his parents. The parents went to the school, and then when the school did nothing about it, he went to the ministry, and now their solution is let the teacher lay low. He wanted pictures of the boy's private parts sent to him, and all kind of nonsense. And the Ministry of Education is tolerated.
Is this a different teacher? Is this a separate teacher from the one that molested the boy a couple months ago? This is a second teacher?
Well, this is something completely different now. This is another one, different school. And what they are doing is trying to let it keep low, and then the teacher will come back to school after, because he's not supposed to come back to school the rest of this term, and he will then come back in next term like nothing happened. I am not going to allow that to happen. So I want them to take steps before I have to announce it for them. Because I see people get suspended in public service for some foolish things. And then they have to go and represent them. We have a case where 2 teachers ran in an election, and they charged them with something that was not even an offense. They charged them under, for instance, under Section 9, paragraph 9.2 of the Code of Conduct and Ethics. That's not a charge and offense, but they just wanted to find something to charge them for. This is something to charge somebody for and get rid of the public service. And they've been doing that about it. Yeah. I warned them. I know they're listening, and I'm telling them if they don't do something about it, I will speak publicly.
Yeah. Well, we're going to, today's Friday. Our next show is on Sunday. So I know you're going to have something to say about that on Sunday when we come back together. So, boy, this is just getting from bad to worse. Yeah, getting from bad to worse. Joseph Cadogan.
No, it's aided and abetted by the ministry.
Exactly.
The ministry is aware. Not this is something the ministry wasn't aware of, and no, but they're aware.
Yeah. So let's continue to discuss this on Sunday. And again, I look forward to seeing everybody come out, guys. We used to have between 250 to 300 people strong at the marches. Let tomorrow Zoom burst tomorrow, guys. Come out. It's just you can be in your kitchen while you're on the Zoom. Let's practically try to get some solutions for Barbados, this country that we love. We are the opposition. Okay. God bless you all, and we see you tomorrow. Thank you, KEMAR. Thank you, Caswell, and we hope we'll have less technical troubles on Sunday. God bless you.
Okay.
Bye
Good
bye.
night.
Feel better, Caswell.
Thanks.
Yes, bye bye.